All right, welcome everyone to our September work session. First up, we have Rachel Ricker. Welcome. Start with that meeting out. Council Board Ones.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm on the rec board and just wanted to pop in and just give an update that things are going swimmingly on our end, and we're enjoying all of the events and planning the events. We generally get good feedback, so hopefully that continues. Festival went really, really well. We were concerned leading up to it about some things that we brought up last year, but everything went really well, went very smoothly. And we appreciate all of your support, but I really don't have anything of concern to bring up, minus the fact that I had to work the hot dogs because Luke wasn't there this year. But it was fine. I only took one shift, and then I was extra grateful for your hot dog service.
Well, Luke and I did it 2 years ago, both of us, and it's at least a two-person.
It really is.
I was so glad to see like 3 people from the rec board. Jim Pope's daughter was there.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I just shied away. I was gonna, I even
Yeah.
had my blue shirt in the car.
Well, I'll remember this for next year.
No,
I was
forget
actually,
that.
my shift was saved because my daughter got stung by a bee in her eye, so I had to go do mom duty for a minute there, but, I don't know which was worse. Just kidding, don't. But no, that went really well as well, and, we're looking forward, we're already planning the Halloween event, which we've added the trunk or treat from last year, which was really successful. A handful of businesses ended up participating in that, Sorgles and a couple other ones, and we're going to reach out to more. We reached out to a lot last year, but I think as they see it grow and progress over the years, then more people will join as well. So it's fun.
Great. It looks like you're getting great participation from the rest of the board.
Yeah, the board, we really gel together. We're all, different groups of friends and everything, but just have a lot of fun together and work well together. And yeah, we also get a lot of participation and a lot of people coming to these events as well, which is really nice. So we've had a good success rate from the community.
So they got Halloween coming up.
Yes, we're excited for that, the trunk or treat and the Halloween outside, and so that's been really fun too. Good participation.
You have enough help with that? I know you stuff a lot of stuff, put stuff out.
Yeah.
A lot of work to that.
Yeah, we do have enough help as long as most of the board members are there, and we usually have most of us there. It's, just the setup really, and then manning so that certain kids don't take 42 Snickers at a time and leave 0 for somebody else. That's the only problem. But no, generally everybody's really good.
Well, recreation is such an important part of what we do for families. So thank you for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure to be on the board. It's fun.
You thought, I know one of the concerns going into the festival was the stuff this year. Sounds like you think it worked out
I
okay.
think it was a non-issue. Luckily, I think that there weren't, it wasn't set up in a way that could really even be contentious. So it was really a non-issue. It wasn't allowed set up from anybody, and it was great.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really broke the rules.
We kind of get the word out to people, don't be doing that. That
Okay.
worked out well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. And overall, I thought festival went really well, and we lucked out with the weather again, kind of, except for the semi-tornado almost happened right before it happened. But even with the postponement, we still had a lot of people and good crowds, so it's good. But we're always open to ideas and feedback if anybody has them as well.
Any questions, anyone?
Luke, will you be back for a hot dog?
It's sad. I was sad in my soul.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to him earlier in the day. He wasn't that sad.
So I wanted to ask, for the hot dog stand, was it cash on it or?
actually, people were so grateful once they found out that it cost nothing, you know.
They always are, yeah, they
Oh,
always
okay.
expect that it's going to.
Yeah,
it's
Just
going to
one
go.
dad was like stressing, not stressing, but he was just manning. Yeah, it just hit how many chip bags and everything that his kids took, and then he said, well, okay, what do I owe you for? And his kids were grabbing cookies and blah, blah, blah. And I said, nothing's from, from the borough, and he said, oh my gosh, so, yeah, they just really, people really appreciate it.
I've gotta be honest, I had 2 ice cream sandwiches. And I
Oh,
only
yeah, yeah.
had one, and Zach actually gave me one because they were melting.
not weird.
Favorite, but-
So the second one was the same as going away, so.
Right, right. It also becomes less to put away.
Community service. That's all right, I probably love it. I didn't even think so, it's fine. There you go. Any support the borough can give to the rec committee in general, or?
I think we have all the support as far as the volunteering. We don't really need any more volunteer help generally, but just coming out and being there and telling your friends and other families, your neighbors and everything is always really important and fun. I think it's important for our families to get to know council and, my mayor, when I introduced you to my friend's son, I think this was 2 festivals ago, they called me later that night and said, he was so excited to meet the mayor. And so it's fun for these kids to meet people that make a difference in our community as well, so.
It's my honor.
Of
Thank you
Yes,
for introducing.
course.
Awesome.
You guys have one vacancy, right?
One, yes.
Is that causing,
We
Okay.
haven't had a deficit in help. I mean,
Okay.
it hasn't been a problem there. We're always open to anybody, applying, but,
I think we do have one person who's interviewed.
okay.
We do stay.
3 meetings is usually what we, evaluation,
Yeah.
meeting / events, and then,
That's what it seemed to fulfill.
yeah.
It has, yeah, and, I think it was Greg, our newest member. He's been great, really helpful, and, he plotted the whole festival so that we could see where all tables were going to be on, like one of those types of things, so it was very.
It's an engineered map.
Yes, and he's very engineering oriented, so everything was very detailed and clean lines and it's very. So yeah, we all gel very well together and all bring different things to the table. Good group.
Well, anybody have any other questions? Great. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason.
No problem, you too.
It's just me, because maybe
Yeah.
what do you think?
Get rid of, yeah, good idea.
Okay. There we go. So, let's make sure,
Yeah, I always have, sure.
unmute it. Okay.
How'd the market do today?
Yes. Most of them.
Better than yesterday.
Yeah, better than yesterday. It was, a little bit up, a little bit of down. I think we finished, I think we're positive on the S&P, Dow, down a little bit on the Dow, and I think then the tech power NASDAQ was positive. So I think at the initial request when this came through, although there were a lot of electronic email snafus, on both sides, this was kind of in early August, right? And we had some volatility, and Kathy had asked me to come speak to you guys. And obviously we got through August in a pretty good fashion.
August was really good.
August was really good. I think we were up, both the police and the general employees were up about 4%, a little bit more aggressive in the police plan. So through August 30th, it was up about 10.5%. The general employees was up around 10%. And I would say with the general employees, the drag on that performance was due to, we had a very lump sum distribution that came out. I think the largest in the eight years that I've been working with Franklin Park. I went back and I actually talked to Nancy. I think it was the biggest lump sum that we've ever had come out. It was a little bit over $400,000. We sold in April. before the market rebounded. We tried to, we tried to massage it in a way where we weren't taking so much away from equities that had to, we felt like had to rebound. But overall, I think it was the first big test of us being able to meet the lump sum requirement of the general employees in a way that we haven't been tested before. I think we ended up in a really good spot as we got through August, and then September brought some volatility. It's typically of the 12 months in the year, it's typically the worst month on average. And in election years, even though election years are typically positive, kind of the 2 months leading into an election year tend to be more volatile, and more often than not are a little bit negative before kind of rallying into the end of the year. So that's kind of the high level of like how our portfolio responded. I wanted to see if you guys had any specific questions before we talk about what's happened in the last couple weeks, last couple of days, and our outlook looking forward.
Any questions?
September typically not a good month, right?
A lot of really, yeah. I don't know really the reason why, but a lot of bad things tend to happen in September. You go back to the great financial crisis. Lehman filed for bankruptcy in September. Fannie and Freddie were taken over as conservatorship. Same with AIG. In 2011, that's when the pigs of Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain missed sovereign debt payments. I don't know why September is a bad month, but it tends to be in the market that you do get some volatility. I really wish I understood why, and I couldn't explain.
Any questions, anyone else, or Jason, you want to continue?
Yeah, I would say that the big issue that we saw yesterday, Nvidia, right, which was, it was down 10%, kind of rebounded a little bit today. It was kind of like flat, maybe up a little bit. What you're starting to see is what we've talked about here for the last several quarters, which is very good being the enemy, or great being the enemy of very good, which is to say that Nvidia's last report, I think in the third week of August, was outstanding. And it was the same kind of report that led for it to go up and be up 130% on the year and have such a spectacular 2023. But you get into kind of one of law of large numbers, and B, the second piece of it is you're looking at pricing to perfection, which we've talked a lot about this, but humans have we're not perfect in anything that we do. It's what makes us human. And I think the ability to price out just how fast AI would be able to integrate into our daily lives and make our companies and lives more profitable, and for us to be more productive, that follow through has been missed. And I think that's one of the reasons that while we have some exposure there, we've been talking about the other areas of the market that were cheaper, right? They weren't trading at 80 times forward earnings, that maybe had paid better dividends, had the case of international equities, had the ability to have monetary policy behind them, right? Which is, we're going to get another interest rate cut overseas this month, and the U.S., the Fed is going to be behind us. So those are the kind of things that we've been doing in the portfolio, and it's also the reason that we kind of run them in a manner that when they're fully funded, you don't need to have so much equity volatility in the portfolio. You need to be really steady in terms of how you make the number. I think that goes back to far predating me in terms of how you fully funded these pension plans. It allows you to absorb the volatility easier because you don't have as much equity in your allocation. So that's kind of, I think, what has helped us. And if we get a little bit of a bigger pullback, that's one of the things that we would be looking to do, is to allocate to our bonds. And our fixed income has held up really well. Our short fixed income is up around 6.5%. And our core fixed income, which is a little bit longer, a little bit more sensitive to interest rates, is up about 4.5%. So that compares very favorably to 2023, where we got a couple points out of it in 2022 where it was negative. But it's really serving as the ballast of the portfolio. And when we had that volatility in August, we sold some bonds, we bought some small cap, we bought some mid cap, we bought some international. And if we do get a really big sell-off where things become cheap again in September, we're not going to be afraid to to lean in and put some money to work.
Jason, I wanted to ask if this is a good time to start rotating in a small cap. If rates are being cut, even 25 basis points, these companies are pretty leveraged. So interest rate reduction would probably benefit them tremendously.
Tremendously. And I think every cut, if you think about what the Microsofts and the Googles of the world did in COVID, it's like something our government really didn't do, which is they termed out all of their debt. So they took, I mean, Apple issued a bond at a 2.25% coupon, 50-year paper. It's now trading at like 60 cents on the dollar, maybe a little bit less than that because of where rates are. But Apple doesn't care, right? They floated that and they were able to get these really low fixed costs. So as interest rates went up and inflation went up, their costs didn't go up. To your point, small cap and mid cap, roughly 50% of their capital stack is revolving debt, right? So they might have some fixed rate debt, but most of it is debt that revolves around, that resets either monthly or quarterly. And every 25 basis points, the way to think of this is that if you've got $1 million, $1 million of debt out there, right? Do you just think about the incremental addition, just straight to the bottom line? If you have $1 million in interest expense, and not only does it make them more profitable, it also allows them to kind of reinvest and to take advantage of things that haven't been available to them. And looking at where valuations are too, all the bad news is priced in, right? The interest rates went up and they got hammered, and they're trading at values that reflect no positive catalysts to them, and then continued ongoing struggles. It's almost as if the one part of the market, the more growthy segment of the market is saying, okay, well, interest rates don't matter, and they're going to always stay where they are no matter what. We're going to win either way. And the bond market is telling you, rates have come down, bond prices are up. Okay, so that's working. In small and mid cap stocks have just not benefited in the way that we think that they probably should. We have seen them start to rally at the beginning parts of a rally, but they have a long way to go. We're still roughly 12 to 15% off the all-time high in small cap set in October of 2021. We've set 44 new highs in the S&P 500 this year, to give you an idea of the delta in performance. And then the last thing I'll offer is that I do think that diversification has always been something that we preached here, and it's worked out really well for us. We've got an alternative equity strategy manager that has a gold component to it. Gold's up 20%. That manager's up 15% this year. It's not really international stocks. It's not really U.S. stocks. It's kind of a little bit of all of the above. And that's another way that we're able to add incremental return that's differentiated without taking on a lot of volatility. So we have a lot of ways to win moving forward. And the good news is for us, not only our fixed income, but the contributions that come in from the Borough come in November. So we know that there's contributions coming back in that, if we do get a market pullback, and for those that are worried about which way the election goes, we'll be at lower prices are good, overall for us in the stock market. And as we think about moving forward for all the beneficiaries, lower prices work well for us.
Gives you the buying opportunity.
Gives us a buying opportunity. Exactly.
Jason, I wanted to ask, both of the portfolios have about 13% or so for international. If the U.S. is in a position of cutting rates, and the European Central Bank and Canada are also cutting rates, does it make sense to have a much exposure international, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the global equity market in general, the U.S. is roughly 54, 55% of the global market cap. We're materially more than that. I think our portfolio are kind of constructed 2/3, 1/3, kind of 2/3 U.S., 1/3 international. So kind of we're still maintaining exposure to the U.S. I think one of the, there are a couple of themes that we think are gonna be beneficial overall. We have not only the kind of the interest rate environment, but we also think this idea of deglobalization, and you're starting to see that kind of trickle in, at least here, in the United States. You've got both parties, they talk about it in different ways, but they talk about kind of reshoring the supply chain, making, creating more jobs in America, manufacturing more things here. Those are all things that are, well, by definition, are gonna kind of reorient the way that the supply chain works, which means necessarily that there's gonna be, more opportunities for international companies to, to benefit from that as we move away from China and Southeast Asia in terms of, us moving a lot of our jobs to, say, Mexico being kind of would be a primary beneficiary of that kind of reshoring or kind of shortening up that supply chain. Valuations continue to look really good. If we look at kind of where they traded historically, we're at kind of the best valuations from a cheapness perspective. The international stocks writ large against the S&P 500, another really good reason to do that. And also, the dollar has been declining. And as the dollar declines, and that's another thing that's going to be a factor as interest rates go down, the value of the dollar is going to go down as well. High interest rates have kept the dollar high, which has been very beneficial for U.S. equities at the expense of international equities. And as the U.S. dollar declines in value against the basket of currencies, that's going to benefit international equities as well. So those are kind of the reasons that we think we have the right amount of international relative to the U.S. And then we think that kind of moving forward, and as we look at kind of opportunities, we certainly see that there's a lot of tailwinds behind us. And going back to low inflation and low interest rates, where money was basically free, but that was really conducive to a U.S. economy that was geared toward technology. It's unlikely we're going to go back to that low rates, low inflationary environment that was so good for the U.S. stock market and for a lot of the companies that we've made here. And I think that normalization as well is a reason that we like the mix that we have.
Jason, I've heard, we don't know what the situation's gonna be after the election, but I've heard that these things kicked around about taxing what unrealized gain on real estate and on 401k plans. And if that would come to fruition, I'm not sure I totally understand how it would work, but how would that affect us personally, and would it affect these plans at all?
The plans are a little bit, it's kind of hard to wrap around exactly what they're specifying.
Okay.
I believe that most of this is in kind of the individual world, right? So outside of IRAs, outside of pension plans, outside of endowments and foundations, there's been talk about potentially taxing college endowments. I don't know exactly kind of where that legislation stands, but let's just assume that they have put that off. What they're talking about is, okay, let's say that my wife and I, we were very fortunate, right? We invested well, we created a lot of wealth, and we had $100 million, right? The $100 million portfolio. Well, rather than sell anything, right? So in realized capital gains, we borrow against our portfolio, right? So we don't take any capital gains, we borrow against it. And obviously there's an interest rate associated with it, but it's much more palatable than paying capital gains taxes at the state, federal, or local level. So you borrow against it, and then my wife and I pass away. And you get what's called kind of a step up in basis. And so then your heirs, or in this case, my wife would get a half step up in basis, and then there's then when she passed it down to my kids, right? So that you can get this step up in basis that essentially eliminates the capital gains tax, where you're not paying taxes. And I think what Congress is saying is that wealthy people, extremely wealthy people have done this, where they borrowed against their portfolio, they pass away, and then you miss out on those tax receipts. Looking to kind of come up with a plan so that you can capture some of that tax revenue. That is something that has has been put out by, the Democratic Party, and it's kind of a plank of how they would go about raising money. How feasible is that? I haven't seen a plan in place that makes a lot of sense to me, just economically, like take the politics out of it. I think it would be incredibly hard, and there would be a lot of knock-on effects, you know, in terms of how you tax that, how it gets paid out, what effects that has on capital markets. I think getting like something like that done would be incredibly complicated, but it's mostly focused on eliminating the example that I just used of the couple that has $100 million, realizes they're closer to life, or closer to the end of life, borrows against their portfolio, and avoids paying capital gains taxes. That would be my guess. I think that if they were to try to take away or try to tax unrealized gains on the retirement side,
It'd be a
you know,
disaster.
I think politically, the party that would suggest that would lose the next election by a lot. That might be the one thing that could unify the country. If someone actually said, we're gonna tax all your retirements, like I think you might get like 90%.
Yeah, you don't know how much of the scuttlebutt you hear is truth or not, but I've heard even as your house gains value.
Yes.
You bought your house for 50, and now it's worth 200. We can tax you on that gain
Well, right now,
before you even sell
right now you have, as the way the current law states, you have the first $500,000 or $400,000 of gains are protected, depending on the state, $400,000 to $500,000. But you have that protection.
Now,
Now, you do, and I think you want to talk about like a fourth or fifth rail of like politics. And if you were to do that, I think one of the reasons they want to do that is to try to control like housing price and housing affordability. I don't necessarily know that would. I think economically, I think that would be very hard to implement, and I think it would be counterproductive to our economy and all of our interests.
and the other thing is hard to understand about that too, maybe you probably don't know the answer, but how often would they assess that?
Well, therein lies a lot of the issue, right? And I think if you run into those kind of issues that I think it's much easier to try to to eliminate loopholes in our very complicated tax code, try to make sure that you're capturing more of the revenue that's there. Maybe eliminate a lot of the carve outs that they kind of exist. Means kind of social security. Those all seem to be better ideas that have been thrown out by both sides than taxing unrealized capital gains, or trying to figure out a way to appraise home values.
You get into your 70s and you start hearing about that. You don't have any income coming in.
It's scary.
Somebody wants to tax your house. My wife and I both worked our entire careers, 40 years. So we have employer matches on stuff. So we have a fairly reasonable nest egg. And if somebody said, well, anytime that goes up, we want a piece of it before you even touch it.
And therein lies would be the hard point.
Yeah.
It's like, how could you contribute? How could you calculate basis on retirement
Right.
based off of 40 years of history, where sometimes the records aren't even all that great
Right.
and reliable? I think that's where you kind of come into it. My hope would be, and I say this as probably somewhat of a glass half full person. I would hope that smarter people would prevail in Washington than they consider those things, which one never knows. But I'm hopeful that they don't go through with that.
I didn't-
Jake, sorry.
No, I didn't mean to digress into an area that
You're-
probably doesn't affect our.
No, it would. If they went through with the capital gains tax, if you just followed that through, it would affect us, because you'd have a lot of forced selling. You'd have a lot of
Sure.
selling to get out of things in the short term to avoid that, because you couldn't put that, it would have to go retroactive to either 1/1 or kind of 4/15, something like that. It would have, if they were to put that in, that would have an effect, at least in the market respect.
Jason, just one last question, and we're over time here, but, there's a lot of articles that came out last week, 401ks, a lot of millionaires, but based on the basis of the value of 401k, and the younger workers, the Gen Z, Gen Y, have been like contributing, and it seems like over the last couple of years, 401k contributions have been massively rising, across like all generations that are currently working. With that trend continuing, I mean, wouldn't that kind of like run up the market further? If all things were equal?
I mean, you would certainly have, yeah, it goes to like price discovery, right? Would price discovery still exist if you have all of this programmatic buying? And I think that I've yet to see data that would suggest, and we've had 401ks that have been around, for a long time. If you think about the defined benefit plan versus the defined contribution plan, I mean, there's a reason that employers froze, the defined, the benefit plans, right? And if they're kind of, they understand their liabilities could incredibly increase, and that's the reason why we have 401ks now. I think that it's certainly, there's a certain amount of buying that would come in, but we'll take the carry trade, for instance. I mean, all that stuff kind of happened on the when 401ks would come in and be buying the market. That happened in July and early August, and it's certainly gone down, and we've seen what leverage and people making speculative bets against the market would happen. I do think that the trends are generally supportive of long-term investing, which I think I would agree that if you're contributing every 2 weeks, generally speaking, the market goes up over time, right? The longer you're in the market, we always say kind of staying in the time in the market is more effective than timing the market. So generally speaking, yes, that would lead to it, but I don't think it's not going to stop the market from, like, use COVID, for example, right? I mean, those are the kind of things where I think that I don't think it ruins price discovery. I'm not one of those people that thinks that index funds or the 401ks are killing price discovery. I think that companies through either their own reporting or active investments or a combination of between, there will be companies that thrive and survive, and there will be companies that don't. There'll be companies like GE that were great for 20 years and no longer great.
All right, anyone else? Jason, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
See you in a month. If you have any other questions, I'm here.
If the news is good.
Kathy has my email to circulate. If you have any other questions, please let me know.
Cool.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, all right. So presentation of the audit by Brian McCall. Oh, he's here. Okay. Oh, there you go.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. That's important stuff.
This casual for now, it's very. It's very
Oh, Brian.
serious. Thank you for that.
Yeah, sorry about the delay.
No.
Okay, so, want to give us a summary of
Sure,
our key points?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I am Brian McCall, the audit partner with Margosel CPAs. We perform the yearly audit. What that consists of is a set of full financial statements, a filing with the DCED, the Department of Community and Economic Development of the state, that every municipality has to do. You also put a legal advertisement in the paper as required under municipal code. And whenever your financials are done, they get uploaded to a site because you have bonds. That's kind of where they go to, where they're publicly available. So that package is kind of the audit. Also, as part of the audit, we issue a communication to those charged with governance letter. And then at times we issue a management letter, which is our recommendations for improvements to internal control. We do not have a formal letter this year. Happy to say that. I think in the years we've worked with the borough, you never had more than a couple of comments. If anything pops up, it always gets addressed. So that's probably only the case with maybe 20% of the audit clients we work with. All our firm does is work with governments and nonprofits. So we do a lot of these same type of audits. I think a brief handout was provided and, I can keep it pretty brief. On slide 3, these are just some required communications. As your auditors, what's really our role? Our role is just to provide an opinion on the financial statements, really the numbers, everything is the responsibility of management. We come in and really issue just a 1 or 2 page report that says, hey, we were able to obtain the information we needed to complete the audit. There weren't any new accounting policies and new accounting rules you had to deal with really in the current year. Last year, you had converted to GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles. That's kind of the normal accounting for government. It does differ a little bit from regular accounting for a for-profit or a nonprofit, but the GASB sets those rules, the government accounting standards for it. So you converted last year, so this year was kind of more a business as usual year. One estimate we always point to that's in pretty much every government's set of financials is the pension liability. You have an actuary that calculates that. You're required under Pennsylvania law to fund that on a yearly basis. So nothing really unique there, but it is a big estimate as far as the calculation there. No, always like to point to, we still have many audits for December that are not finished. We wrapped things up last month. Good cooperation from everyone on your team here, and with Scott coming on at the end to help wrap things up and everything. So that with the transition to it always doesn't work that way. So we appreciate it on your side and appreciate your team getting us the information we need to complete. Next page, just some financial highlights. And remember, this is as of December 31, 2023. So at this point, and that's always one thing I point to, we didn't have any significant adjustments as far as the audit process. So, we always come in a couple months after the end of the year. So you don't want us coming in and adjusting any numbers that then, during the year, you're making decisions based on those numbers. So no significant adjustments there. As a government, you have to report on 2 bases. So it's basically like you have 2 balance sheets and 2 P&L statements. On a long-term basis, that's called net position. Your long-term equity basically decreased about 300,000. On the more short-term basis, governmental fund balance, which is how you budget more year to year, there was an increase of about 670,000. Of the assets you have, capital assets are almost 8 million. But I always say capital assets, it's kind of an accounting joke. As soon as you have an asset, what do you have? A liability to replace it at some point. So you had some additions during the year. There was only 300,000. There was $1.3 million in the prior year. So pretty calm on that side too. Your debt you have outstanding, you had issued the note in 2022, nothing new in the current year, everything paid as expected. And the net pension liability is 1.8 million, and your funded percentage is basically consistent with where we like to see it. And just because the way that MMO is required in Pennsylvania, most local governments we work with that aren't cities, they struggle with funding sometimes, but you're kind of in the normal place as far as your funding percentage compared to others. The next slide, slide 5, just breaks out what your fund balance types are. The golf course is over. It has to be accounted for separately. You can see the general fund holds most of the fund balance at the end of the year. There's a little bit in capital reserve. You had transferred over timing at the end of last year. There was money that came over to pay for expenses. But you can see there at the bottom, so your general fund, overall fund balance in those 4 funds is up 667,000. And the golf course also had an increase of 72,000 over the prior year. So those are just some highlights. Like I said, we don't have adjustments, so the information you're going, you already kind of know what happened, and we didn't find anything to the contrary, basically. Just what do we do as your auditors? When we come in here, we try to get an understanding of internal controls, kind of how you process things. That's where those management letter comments would come from. If we said, hey, this person's signing here, but then they're also doing this and doing this. And so we take a look at that. That informs us how the best way to perform our audit. So we do transactional testing over checks cut where they sign, where the checks signed, where the appropriate signatures there. Same with payroll. Did you have approval for the pay rates? Did they agree to the union contract? And then for your balances, we do things both with the pension in your cash accounts, investment and cash confirmations to the bank and investment companies to confirm what those balances are. We read the board minutes, we inquire with employees about different things. So there's all these pieces that kind of go together that in the end, like I said, we just really do that opinion on the financial statements at the end that says, we're trying to get to the point where are the numbers materially accurate and are the disclosures reasonable in nature? And that's really what the next slide is, slide 7 points to then. Your financial statements have an unmodified opinion, which is the best type of opinion you can have. That's the old unqualified or clean opinion. And then the DCD form and legal ad, if you were to look at the state filing, because it's in a state format, there's a whole bunch of caveats in there, but it is a clean opinion, if you will, for that filing as well. So basically, those are the best type of reports that we are able to issue for the borough. So I tried to keep it short there, but just any questions or anything, I'd be happy to take.
Or is there anything the borough could do to strengthen books or?
I think you've always had a strong control structure, and then you've done some things over the past couple of years from the accounting to improve on that side. I think what we have seen is we've been kind of called into audit places. They couldn't get their audits done. They were having issues then because they couldn't apply for grants. They couldn't issue debt if they needed to. The bar is really dropped for what is out there. So the line I've kind of been using over the past year is if you're holding steady, really, you're getting ahead because really, it's really much more of a struggle to get through. And it's turnover. People can't find information. Everyone is spread thin as far as sometimes if there's a CFO type, they're dealing with HR and dealing with the school district dealing with something with lunches, but it's hard to find time for the finance. So really, honestly, just holding steady, making sure your audit's completed on timely and everything. That's really important now. You're in a good spot.
Any questions, anyone? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we might have a PA economy lead on.
Maybe, is it Vinny Canizero?
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Hi, welcome. So we're assuming you're the PA economy lead.
Yes, I'm here, and Jerry Cross is also here from the Economy League.
All right. Do we want to welcome gentlemen? Introduce yourselves, and then us and the council introduce ourselves.
Sure, Jerry, if you want to jump, I'll go after you.
Sure. Jerry Cross, longtime employee of the Economy League, associated with the Central Division. Economy League has several offices, one in Pittsburgh, but I'm out of the Northeast Pennsylvania office, and we do many home rules across Pennsylvania. We just wrapped up Lancaster City's home rule initiative, also Wilkinsburg Borough in Allegheny County.
Yep. Thanks, Jerry. I'm Vinny Canizero. I'm the executive director of the Economy League. Relatively new, started back in December. I will say, because Jerry didn't say it, Jerry has done a lot of home rules, and we're also working on Shimokins and Luzerne County right now also. So we have a rather wide experience with the size municipalities and the concerns and the breadth of what municipalities are looking for when they decide to go home rule.
Hey, welcome. We want to introduce ourselves real quick.
Sure. I am Luke Mislinski with council.
Hi, Tom Schwartzmeyer with council.
Council.
Sorry, Mila Delai, junior council person.
Dennis O'Keefe, mayor.
Laura Check, I am a member of council.
Ryan Malkin, council.
Kathy Fromert, secretary.
Max Younker, borough solicitor.
No, Peter Appellate, council president. So welcome. What can you tell us about home rule charter? We are looking to explore it, the pros and cons, and we understand. As you mentioned, you've gone through this with a few municipalities, so we're just hearing your thoughts on this. We really haven't done anything other than put some information out. Had a flyer, Turning some volunteers at our festival over the summer. We've kind of put on hold right now, just getting the signatures and messaging this, and just information. What's a good holistic approach here?
Yeah, I think that's a good start, but Jerry, I'm gonna let you jump in and go with it, and I will follow along.
Okay, thank you, Vinny. I would ask, number one, what is the thinking behind home? You're looking at home rule. Is it a structural problem? Is it a political problem? Is it a financial problem that you want to address? Then I would suggest, do you think you want to do it by putting the question on the ballot as an ordinance of the borough or a petition of electors? Both those have pros and cons. So, but the process itself is relatively straightforward to do a government study commission. And you can place it on the county, I'm sorry, on the ballot by either petitioning the county board of elections to have it on the next election, which I think now would be May. I don't think you're. I think we've passed the deadline we may have passed the deadline in Allegheny to put ballot questions on for November. I'm not sure, but it's close. And then you would impanel a government study commission, which would be authorized under the questions you put on the ballot. There's 3 different kind of questions, and they would proceed to study the form of government and make recommendations or design a new charter or accept a optional plan form of government.
There's a lot of reasons why municipalities choose to pursue home rule. I'll say the biggest one that I have seen is the tax flexibility. It is not necessarily going to fix everything. I don't know what your economic and what your financial situation is like in Franklin Park. It's not in and of itself going to fix every problem, but it gives the municipality greater pathways and mechanisms for more revenue enhancement. And we see, and Jerry, please jump in also, but we see that's a big reason why folks tend to move towards home rule. It could be that they want to just change the structure of government altogether, and that's why. But I think at least it's a lot of times it's a revenue versus expenses issue.
It has been lately. If you go back 52 years or so since the start of the ability for municipalities to do home rule. In the early days, in the 70s, mid 80s, it was a good government effort. There was many efforts to kind of reform the form of government that the state allowed through the codes. You see a lot of those in the early charters, different forms of government, different styles. A lot of cities adopting the optional plan to get away from the old 5-commissioner form of city government. But from my point of view, starting around 20 years ago, except for counties still very much were, I think, centered around the political structure. Municipalities, you saw greater trends, as Vinny mentioned, for tax flexibility, especially since the court clarified and the legislature added some amendments to the act regarding tax rate limits and the applicability of the code limits to home rule municipalities. That has really opened up, I think, the attractiveness from the financial management side. And you've seen more and more of the home rules leaning towards variations on their existing theme of government, but with financial flexibility to spread the revenue side around the different sources, as opposed to municipalities being at their code caps and at the mercy of county assessment practices for the property taxes. So that Vinny's correct. In the last 20 years, I would say many of the home rule charters are germinated by a need for financial flexibility. I will say the mayor of Lancaster sold the approach on that to the electorate for her petition drive. I've done several Act 47 home rules to enable the Act 47 municipalities to leave Act 47 without great financial difficulty. So I would say, yeah, that is I don't know what your particular rationale is for looking at it, but that is contemporarily, that's what a lot of people are looking at.
Yeah, I'd say and I'll open up to the floor as well here, but, part of the thought here is currently financial position is pretty strong. However, we do have a lot of looming infrastructure needs in the future, for example, stormwater. We are going to experience probably 750K to 1 million, maybe even more in stormwater needs and infrastructure replacement. We have a disproportionate number of streams and these, stormwater basins that need to be cleared and cleaned out versus other municipalities. So we are bound by, what we can do. Right now, the only real tax revenue or revenue stream, the primary one, if I'm not mistaken, is property taxes, right? So there's only a certain cap, even if you were to, modify that, it really would not do much. So we've gotten grants. Yeah.
So you have a lot of impaired streams in MS4 situation?
Yeah, cap as well, sorry, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, was that an MS4 situation with impaired?
Yeah, MS4 and of course pipes that are breaking in general.
Yes,
Okay,
It's a combination.
and the 750,000 to 1 million estimate is per year, it's not total, that's not. It's
And
per year.
exactly, and that's today's dollars.
We
okay.
don't have a way of doing with that.
And we've gotten grants in the last couple of years, we've gotten lucky. And we are a financially stronger community versus other municipalities. At a certain point, we can't just like chance it and say we'll probably get a grant to cover it, a couple of those.
Mhm,
So it is gonna put a strain and a burden on the
mhm.
borough, in the future. So this is for future planning. It's not for an immediate benefit. I know something that, I don't know how Lancaster is or Wilkinsburg financially, but this is not something that's like gotta happen like right now. It's more of a
Sure.
long-term planning.
Sure, well, home rule allows the flexibility to levy a stormwater fee as long as your solicitor agrees. I think most solicitors I've dealt with on home rule feel that it's a legitimate fee. I don't believe boroughs are empowered to do that now on their own under the borough code, although second-class townships are. So outside of an authority structure, yeah, home rule would let you have impact fees of stormwater and levy those directly within the municipality.
Yeah, and the other aspect of this is those responsibility for structures. So we have an example is the state roads where the borough has to, it seems like because of our setup, we are responsible for that infrastructure, whereas the home rule would not, they would not be responsible for like maintaining or fixing.
Enclosed surface water drainage facility.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's costly. That, that's money that's coming out of the borough's budget. Necessarily, if we were home rule, it would not be coming out of our budget.
Yeah, home rule doesn't excuse you from laws of uniform applicability across the Commonwealth, obviously. You're still subject to all the laws that are uniformly applied across the Commonwealth. For example, zoning and other items. So those laws you don't get out from under, Act 111, those sort of things. If it's uniformly applicable to all municipalities, home rule municipalities are subject to them.
Yeah, Jerry, what he's referring to is it's specific to boroughs, according to PennDOT. PennDOT holds us responsible for enclosed.
Enclosed surface water drainage facilities within the right of way.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
just
Boroughs.
Just boroughs.
Yeah, boroughs, just boroughs. Okay.
So if you're not a borough anymore, then
Townships.
you're not.
Yeah, if it's applicable simply to a class of municipality, one class, yeah, then you're not subject to it. Yes.
And that financial burden would then be escaped. Right there.
Any questions for?
What types of services do you offer municipalities that are interested in exploring doing a home rule charter process? Do you guide the investigation, and what exactly can you guys do?
We go through the entire process, and I have not been with PEL at the beginning stages, or I guess we are with Luzerne right now at the very beginning stages. But we will guide municipalities through the entire process from after the election of the commission to going through the education phase, deciding do you actually want to pursue a home rule charter. That's usually like 6 to 9 months. Jerry, is that right? After the commission then votes that yes, we would like to pursue a home rule charter, we will actually go through the next chunk, the phase 2 of actually drafting the charter. So we will meet with municipality and meet with the commission for meetings, subcommittee meetings, wherever the case may be, to go through and figure out what do you actually want your government to look like. Do you want a controller? Do you need an engineer? What is the actual form and structure? And we will work with you to figure out what will work best for your municipality. And we help draft and write and do whatever the case may be. So we're partners in this. We would like to see all municipalities successful, and we're always happy and willing to do what needs to be done to get the job done.
When we work with a municipality, we consider ourselves the Government Study Commission staff, because the Government Study Commission is an independent commission related to the borough. So we consider ourselves staff, and we offer our facilitation services so that their study period really is focused and addresses the issues and doesn't get veered off track on different things, or if there's a specific emphasis that needs to be looked at, we provide research for that and other services. And once a decision is made to draft the charter, as Vinny said, we have a process that we have 2 different processes. They're related, but applicable to the personality, I guess, of the commission. That once they decide on a form of government change is needed, we go through the existing form of government, seeing what's good, what's bad, what the study has revealed to be efficient or effective or lacking, and you design and draft a charter around that using the commission's wishes from their study, and just adapting current charter language that's been proven over many years and adapting it for your circumstances. And that process probably takes another 9 months. Statutorily, you have 9 months to study and another 9 months to prepare a charter and get it to the ballot.
So hypothetically, if the commission goes through, studies things, finds that government's working fine, it's doing what it's supposed to do. The only issue is we want to convert to a home rule charter because we need the flexibility. We want to get out from under some of the pen cost requirements, those types of things. Is it still a worthwhile process to go ahead and do the home rule charter if the commission says, hey, government's working exactly what it's supposed to do, but we would like to have this additional flexibility that the state law allows to home rule chartered governments? Is that something that's effective and makes sense?
Yeah, it depends on as I said, the personality of the commission. Depending on who's on that commission and who runs for the office and elected, I could very easily see some commission deciding that the form of government is right for the type of municipality we have, but that the limitations of the codes are what the real problem is, not the form. And the charter would be written so that the elected officials, the appointed officials, the department structure, the ordinance adoption would be very similar to what you have now. And all you would be really doing is giving yourself a grant of powers and designing a government that's very similar to what you have now, if that's the way they want. And that can shorten the process dramatically. A charter is a structure. What replaces the code is something called, the Borough Code would not be directly replaced by the charter. The Borough Code, the charter is your form of government. What we think of as the processes and procedures under the Borough Code would be done in an administrative code, which is essentially the operating manual for the new government. And that happens after the charter is adopted. So short answer, yes. If you like what you have now, you can keep it.
Do you guys assist with leading up to the ballot question? For instance, if you needed to talk to people and see if they're interested in running to be a commissioner for the Home Rule Charter Commission investigations, that's something that you folks do as part of a service to the
I have not, except in very limited circumstances where I was intimately involved with the municipality as a Act 47 coordinator. Typically, and I'll use my words carefully, but generically, a government study commission is a political decision, and depending on how um, how the candidates are recruited or the candidates are informed of the process and what's the potential for the process. It's really more of a local operation where anyone in the borough can run. Locally elected officials, anyone can run. There's no limitations on party or on current elected status. So as long as you're a resident, I think as elected, a registered voter of the municipality, you can be on the commission. So, but I always say that's probably the most trickiest part is getting candidates for the commission that understand their role and not candidates that think this is their opportunity to address grievances. If you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would, yeah, that's more of a, I think it's more of a local governmental leadership effort rather than a consultant driven effort. Sure.
I'm going to say generally no, just with everything that Jerry just said. We are militantly nonpartisan, and I make every effort not to dive into any political fray. So I would say it would have to be very extraordinary circumstances that we would dive into the process before the actual commission is elected and formed.
Yeah, if the borough is interested, the borough government the council is interested in this, my recommendation is you do the ordinance and you decide to put it on the ballot, decide whether 7, 9, or 11 people is a manageable number, because that's your choice. Usually you see 7 or 9, rarely I've seen 11, but I've worked with all sizes. But you then decide rather than having dueling petitions on the street. I think you take ownership of it and put it on the ballot is usually the more effective way, I think.
I think everybody in the room sees this as a nonpartisan process where the team get together to try and get this done. So I think one of the questions is how do we go about reaching out to the community and educating them about what a commissioner would be doing once they were elected and once they were picking this up? Does your organization help with like education materials and that type of thing?
Yeah, we worked with the city of Lancaster most recently to help the mayor when she was campaigning for the questions of approval. Some of our Act 47 municipalities, because of our status, we worked with the municipality to get the citizens to understand the importance of the question, and whether or not they should vote yes or no was their decision, but it was important to at least understand, attend meetings. Yeah, we have materials that could be used for public presentations in the months leading up to the election, for sure.
We've done presentations also beforehand. I know York has expressed interest, and we do issues forums, which are like informational events. And we held one in York back in, what was it, February, the March around there, for the community, just to educate the general public and elected officials and community leaders, what have you, on what is the role, what's the purpose, what are the pros and cons of home rule in a non-political, purely educational fashion, just to get more people really some type of baseline understanding of why should we be thinking about home rule? Why should you be thinking about home rule?
Was that like before the election where you got the 7, 9 people elected?
Yeah, York has not done anything yet. So what we did in York was purely educational. I mean, we had mayor and council and a whole bunch of people in the room. So I don't know. I was not here for the beginning of Lancaster. So Jerry, you would have to give some more information on that. But yeah, for York at least, we have had folks express interest And we've done things in the community just for an education activity.
Yeah, pre-election education of the question and why it's on the ballot. Absolutely, we've done that. We can guide you in that and give you information. Absolutely.
And then the concern is that going about finding people in the community that, like you said, are willing to run and do the work, because it does take a commitment of time to be a commissioner and to go through the investigation process and then to help to draft the charter. So have you folks assisted other municipalities in going out and finding folks in the community, or at least educating people in the community enough so that they know that they want to make the commitment and run for the commission?
We could explain the requirements and the demands. I haven't recruited personally myself, although I've answered questions for anyone that was interested in, you give them the honest fact that there's several meetings a month and some education that's required. And the local citizen leaders will usually understand that. You might be surprised how many people step up for it, but we can certainly talk to people. They can call them and give advice, and I give them of the benefit of our experience, what the commissioner goes through and what's expected of them.
This is Mayor O'Keefe. From what I've observed, you've had home rule communities that are boroughs. They still remain boroughs, and or they become townships. So how does that work out through the system as to what you become, a township, borough, or whatever?
Well, you're a home rule municipality under the law when you adopt a charter. When you there's optional plans, but we'll ignore those for the second. They're more for cities, but they're eligible for boroughs. But you're essentially become a municipality. The charter then describes the name, and many times a borough retains the name the borough of. Townships retain the name the townships of. Cities say we are a home rule municipality to be known by the name of Borough of Franklin Park. So you don't stay a borough, you become a home rule municipality. A lot of people think, well, if the home rule charter is silent on something, it falls back to the borough code, and that's not necessarily true. In my experience, the only tie you have to the prior form of government is you are only allowed to tax subjects that you could have taxed while you were a borough. So you cannot generate new taxes. You can't make up new taxes. You can't change subjects of taxation. As long as the borough code allows you to tax it, you can continue to use that authority. But you're no longer a borough. You're a home rule municipality operating under a home rule charter structure.
Well, do you lose the tax advantages of the home rule charter if you call yourself a borough?
No, sir. No, it's just a name. It becomes your incorporated name. It's the name of your incorporated municipality. Yeah. A lot of them call themselves the municipality of. They sidestep the issue altogether. But I think many more just say we're the borough of. That's who we are. That's what we are. We name ourselves under our charter, and our name is the borough of.
Thank you.
And people are concerned they might lose their identity, the identity if the name changed.
Right. And it would lead to confusion too.
Yeah. It becomes inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a good reason to switch from borough if that's your name now, or just to the municipality of. Otherwise, it's just a name change.
Anybody else have questions?
I actually, we'll talk as a group.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I don't think any more to it.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, any last words for us, Lisa, or?
Yeah, if you all have any other questions, would like to chat more, Reggie, you have my information, please just, give me a shout and let me know. I'm happy to chat. I'm sure Jerry is happy to chat as well. Wherever you all go, we're happy to assist in whatever you may need.
And you're not alone. There's many, many municipalities that are looking at this right now. And over the last couple of years, there's been much more activity. And DCD in your area has experts that could come and talk to you about things too.
I'm just curious, one last question, maybe a little unrelated, kind of related, but, if there are a lot of municipalities looking to do this, why hasn't the legislature just stepped in and, you know? made it
Wave its
simple?
magic wand.
Say you're
Or pass legislation just to like,
You know,
you know.
Well, Vinny says we have to be strictly non-political, so I'll give you my opinion. Legislature feels, in my experience in 30-some years in the business with the Economy League, the legislators feel you have the tools you need and they have provided you the tools. But like any system, it requires the tools and the system to be working flawlessly. Municipalities in Pennsylvania are subject to assessment policies across the board that are unique to every county. You have different demands on your collective bargaining, your service levels, your demographics, your ability of citizens to pay, the value of your property. All those are unique to your town, but the legislature doesn't quite look at it that way. They look at boroughs as a class of boroughs. And the uniqueness of each one that causes it to be a problem is not their concern. They're manufacturing municipalities for off-the-rack sale. Some municipalities require more extensive tailoring to be presentable. So yeah, you could wait and see if the legislature changes thing. That famous saying, "If you live on hope, you die fasting," is probably appropriate there. I haven't seen much motion in the legislature to address these issues on the level that gives you more flexibility. On a generic level across boroughs, yeah, they will adjust the borough code, but to address your individual needs of flexibility, that's what the home law, another tool the legislature gives you, is what is designed for. So you're just using another tool that they have given you.
We wrote a report, it's not 1965 anymore, which addresses some of the long-term concerns of revenue and taxing abilities, coming up on 2 years ago now. So we recognize that there are challenges with the state legislature in addressing the needs and concerns of municipalities. And like Jerry said, this is one, I will say, very viable option to try and skirt around some of those tax concerns and some of those revenue concerns.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and we will be in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Okay, all right. Should we talk?
Let me leave the meeting. There it is.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting conversation, but let me just ask you a couple questions, because you mentioned the code cap on our tax rates.
On your millage rate, in the
Okay.
borough code, it's like 25 mils, but then there's some exceptions for, and then you can go to ballot questions or so. So that is the one that some of the, like Wilkinsburg, I believe, is also a borough, because they had depreciating property values for so long, even though it's a base year system, et cetera, their tax rate was coming up to 23 mils or so. So even though it sounds big, it's being applied to a lower amount. So that was one of, I think, the motivations for them on that borough code tax rate. There's a local tax enabling act that talks about EIT, local services tax, business privilege tax, mercantile tax. It's in there. So those ones have specific tax rate limits, 1% EIT, unless you're a home rule charter, and then you can make some changes and it could be higher, like City of Pittsburgh. In 11, it's 1.3% because they reduced property tax.
So we took for like 4.
Yeah, well, three,
3.5.
two to the school district.
There's a big built in, so you can have what they call a windfall and
Well, that's for a reassessment,
Yeah.
so it's a different sort of issue, but as he said, yeah, some of these are driven by Pennsylvania's broken tax assessment system. Allegheny County's is particularly broken. So if you are overly dependent on real estate taxes, the school districts have a cap that's in every year, it can't exceed the index without getting exceptions or going to a ballot initiative. But boroughs, and I don't know about townships, have a millage cap in the borough code.
Well, let's talk about a couple things I think that would help solidify our decision. We know the state road, the drainage, surface drainage on the state road. There's 10 state roads in the borough. And I have no idea what we spend on those. I mean, if we spent 5,000 a year, or do we spend 500,000 a year?
I think Gary would know, we've done, projects, we did the one, I think most recently.
Reese Run, I know we did
Yeah.
the Reese Run one, but I mean, my question would be, it's a cost, and I agree with Uday that we don't want to be doing PennDOT's work and not be getting anything for it. But so, we've always known that would be one of the benefits of home rule charter. Gary, I just wondered if you could even give us a silly wild guess on how much we spend on the 10 PennDOT roads each year on drainage.
We really don't, the only thing that we're spending on, probably doing on is the salting and stuff on this. That's all part of another system there, but, as far as doing work on basins and, other type of infrastructure like that, Reese Run was probably the biggest project, or one of the only projects since I've been involved, that we've done, which was pretty costly. I don't know the final figures on that, but it was pretty high, because I know some of the material we bought was extremely costly, the size of it, extent of it, but, yeah, we haven't really done a lot in other type of infrastructure.
Yeah.
But
And really, PennDOT, doesn't have a state law they point to that says boroughs are responsible for it. They have a law in the old road act that says the secretary is responsible for determining responsibility here. So by and large, they can't come in and say, borough, inspect all these roads, there's 10 roads every year, go through here, tell us what needs to be fixed or otherwise. It's when a resident is getting flooded or having an issue that PennDOT's on the scene, PennDOT points to the borough and says, this is the borough's responsibility, that we get stuck with it because we're not in there to do it. And we've had these arguments that that's a dumb policy, that why we even have to apply for a permit to get into this road that you're saying we need to maintain. But when we do have actual damage, a resident, injured, that's when they have the leverage to say.
So it is a cost, but it's probably not an excessive cost. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars per
No.
year, or something like that. I looked at the 10 roads, and Camp Meeting and Big Slippery Creek, a lot of them are down in that area, but you do have Rochester, Reese Run, so. I was just going through and taking a peek at that. Well, you mentioned that we could do we could enact a storm impact fee, which we can't do as a borough. Would that storm impact fee be applicable to nonprofits as well if we were a home rule?
So that's the case that's in front of the Supreme Court right now.
So it may,
Because that was a borough, that was a home rule community that had a stormwater impact fee and applied it to a university as part of the state system that argued, well, we're in our own system, we don't even touch your pipes or anything else, and we're tax exempt. We're not even or tax immune, not even tax exempt. And the Commonwealth Court said, although this is called a fee, it's in the nature of a tax, therefore they're exempt from it. So, yeah, there's the decision of applying it to nonprofits, the churches, the schools, the state university. It doesn't say you have to apply it to everybody, but that was the idea because it was a fee. It could get to large landowners that contribute to these, stormwater issues, but don't pay real estate property taxes like everybody else because they're exempt.
so it may not be much of a difference whether we would do that or whether we would form an authority, and if we don't change the form of government, or we just try to collect the monies another way. We don't know that for sure.
No, I mean, I have argued that, and I don't know, to everybody, just to the wind, I mean, not in front of court, but a stormwater authority, just like any other authority, can't assess taxes. You pay rates and charges, so it is closer to a fee. You know, you pay a sewage charge, you pay water charge, things like that, and you pay it regardless of whether you're tax exempt, tax immune. The borough pays water.
I misunderstood, because I thought when we first talked about that, it was an authority. Maybe I've got the two twisted around. So there, if we didn't go home rule, we stayed as a borough and we formed an authority, then we could go after all property owners.
You wouldn't, there'd be a second, yeah, there'd be a second entity, an authority,
Right.
but there is language and there's part of that decision that says, regardless of who imposes this stormwater fee, it's still a tax. But because it wasn't dealing with the stormwater authority, it seemed to be over inclusive, wasn't narrowly tailored to it, so there's still, an unsettled case or decision. Can a stormwater authority, like you have in Dormont and 11 and other places, apply and assess a stormwater fee to nonprofits, government entities?
All right, I'm just trying to be sure that this is worth doing, because I've never heard that we've had a problem with, in fact, I don't know if we've raised taxes in the last 10 years. I think it's been the 1.29% or whatever, it's been that for 10 years that I've been on council, or close to it. Don't quote me on that, but pretty close to it. Hasn't changed in the last 5 years for sure.
No, right.
So our rate has been pretty steady. I mean, I just look at our budget for 2024, and our property tax brought in about 2.3 million, which would be the 1.29 mils assessed, brings in roughly 2.3 million. So I guess the question would be if that 1.29, if it could be raised, I'm making this number up, 2.0 mils. It would probably bring in another 750,000, 800,000, and may address the stormwater issue. But if there's a cap and we can't do that, then that's.
But you can't, I mean, it's 25 mils, so you've got a ways to go. to hit that.
We'll hit it. Not-
And you have, I mean, appreciating values, here in the borough, and B, we have had growth where we do have, new houses coming in, and yes, there are costs to, police and service and everything else, but that's always been outweighed by the new revenue that we've had a sort of a slowdown. I don't know, we don't read your Tim to start talking about the numbers for that.
Right.
That's,
I think we're trying to get to, what I'm trying to get to is, I'm not saying yes or no to it. I'm trying to figure out, is it worth the effort? Is there enough things wrong with the borough code that we have to follow to go through this 2-year process and form the commission? And I mean, it's a lot of work, and even if they help us with it and we pay them, and there's going to be
I didn't hear that. Did they have a cost or a price, or is it?
Did say something.
There's something.
Didn't ask, yeah, I
It's
didn't
not
hear
there
it there, but.
They're nonprofit.
They're nonprofit.
But,
Doesn't mean they're
no,
free.
no,
Yeah.
but they're not a
But-
EPD program or
Yeah,
state
They
program.
did mention that we can reach out to TCED also, they have expertise, and that's not a bad idea as well.
Yeah. Tom, anything else?
No, I think one of the other things I know we said, it could be 750,000 a year. It was kind of a number that was based on looking at one small segment and saying what's in that segment. But I think that I know our engineers aren't here this evening, I guess, but. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I'd like to do is, we have a lot of developments, and you look at our mapping, you can almost see the plans when you look at where the homes have been built. We could probably take all the ones that have been built in the last 20 years or 25 years and color them out and say, those have the newer plastic pipes, they don't have the old tin whistle on steel. I'm just wondering if in perpetuity, how many years would this really take? I know we have some really old sections of the borough, but we have a lot of things that have been built in the last 20, 25 years that probably have many, many more years to go because of the more durable materials. So I guess my thought would be if we could get a better handle on I mean, I don't think Reach wants to spend the money to have
Right.
your survey of the borough.
Right.
Because that's a big cost, right? And I agree with that. But maybe we need to look at where are the most likely developments or where are the ones that are most unlikely to need any attention in the next 10, 15 years because there's so much.
We did do that.
We did, I
Yeah.
remember Reed saying
put
it's
Brad-
750
put
to a
Brad on
million
that.
per year.
I don't think.
That was Justin put
Yeah,
together.
Justin.
I mean, we should be collecting that data regardless.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to collect it because we are paying for it. We will be paying for it in the future. So even though we have 10 state roads, yes, you make a good point there. However, if you go on Rochester Road where it's like blind you or not, it is falling apart at the seams. Like, so it is gonna happen at some point. If it hasn't happened in the last 20 years, this stuff will happen in the future. May not happen in 5 years, may not happen in 7. Maybe it'll happen in 15, maybe it'll happen in 10. I mean, my thought is why not have flexibility in the future? That's kind of what I was saying, like, this is not an immediate solve. Like, I didn't want them to have an impression that we're in the situation Lancaster and Wilkinsburg, Pittstown or whatever are in. This is more of a feature kind of thing.
I was just trying to get my, a little bit more
Yeah,
quantifying what we're looking at a little bit. I want to be sure it's going to be worth the time, the effort and the expense
Sure.
to do it, that the benefits are going to justify the effort and the cost.
and we should collect that data regardless.
Yeah, my question is that then, really, how much it will cost us next year if we are investigating whether we want to do the home rule chart or not? So how much it will cost, and because since that, Tommy mentioned something, the cost or something, how much it will cost us? Is it to have the commission and to look at that one and or something?
I think I was reading one of the boroughs that did it in the 70s. They spent $15,000 doing it in the 1970s. So I'm not thinking this is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a 6-figure expense, but it's probably not going to be far from it. That's just escalating what the
Sure.
costs were in the 70s to the 2020s.
Yeah, I think we should have Reach talk to them and get an idea of what we're looking at for phase one. Be looking at it.
Yeah.
Similar to the statescape in a way.
Yeah.
I think we really should look at that one. If it doesn't cost much, why not next year? Look at this one because I agree with Wood that we want to have some flexibility in the future because I also believe that to raise the tax and it's not that welcome. I think people will have concern about that.
It's one thing to talk about tax, another to talk about, hey, we've gotta come up with money to maintain the stormwater system. Because we know it's gotta be maintained, it's crumbling, that's an easy one to understand. The one I think is, like you're saying, is, we better just raise our taxes. That's a different.
Which may not cover it.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, and I don't think we have quite enough information to make that call right now.
Well, and we can look, at least distribute in the borough code, that tax section, it's not too long, it tells you how you can do, Bell Acres 2 years ago, looking at the same issue, was going to raise the general millage rate. They made a contribution to their volunteer fire company, every year. And as part of it, the decision was, well, there's a provision that says you can have a dedicated fire tax as part of your millage rate. It's applied the same way, everything else, but it was just a way to show, well, okay, we're gonna pay for these contributions for fire through this part of the tax. So yes, your overall millage rate went up, but it was attributed to 1 mil on fire taxes, something along those lines. So there's some flexibility in terms of as you enter budget season and things like that. But it's not nearly as liberal as the overall charter.
And I think one of the things he said was that most of this, the home rule in the last recent year has been counties or large cities. It hasn't been municipalities.
I thought I heard him say lots of municipalities are going through this now.
Yeah, I mean, the issue was the thing about changing how the government was running the first part, when it first came out, and then by the end, it was more financial reasons for choosing a home rule charter. It was what the line was that I.
Yeah, you can keep the form of government you have.
Yeah.
The structure, and you can change it.
I asked them outright, I said, if we do this.
We still have a mayor.
The government, just to make the government just the way it is, we're just working on giving us the flexibility we're looking for.
Just wait on the rebrand, which
Yeah.
stays on rebrand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we just.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't have to change a thing like that.
Yeah, I don't remember how many municipalities in Allegheny County have jumped on this. I know Pine did it in 1992. The next one to do it was Braddock in 2022, 30 years later. And I believe there's two doing it this year. It would be Duquesne and,
Wilkinsburg. Wilkinsburg.
no, I don't know. Wilkinsburg?
Yeah, I
think
read
you
the
said
welcome
They're
spirit.
Um, one in the South Hills by, Jefferson Hill.
Didn't Dormont just do?
No,
They did a stormwater.
Storm out there.
I think it's Jefferson Hill. So there's two that we're doing this year, the two that I think I mentioned it when we put the email out about the two that were, had it on the websites and they were advertising it for the ballot this fall. So, I mean, it hasn't been a hot seller in the last 30 years until, at least in Allegheny County, it has. I still think I can get the percentage, 10 or 15% of the municipalities in the county have done it. So I'm not saying that that's
Yeah.
a gauge, but when I saw, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon in the 70s. I think it was the legislature passed it in 69 or something, or 68, but it didn't become really effective till the early 70s. If you look at it, a whole bunch of them jumped on between 72 and 80, and a few more in the early 80s, and then it's kind of fizzled out since then. So I think the ones that wanted to, primarily the done.
It's also based on size. I know when you
Yeah.
get big enough, it makes sense to go home rule charter instead of stick with the borough designation.
And I'm curious, the ones that jumped on it, if we were to go and ask them, do you regret the decision?
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to find out why Duquesne's doing it and why Jefferson Hillsborough, I think it is. huh?
Duquesne maybe Act 47.
I will think
Wilkinsburg
they
is
would
Act
be,
47. I mean,
But they have different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have different reasons to do it. So I didn't have time to make those calls, but that would be something interesting to find out. Hey, why are you doing this?
Sure.
The ones are real, like Duquesne's a small, 5,000 people or something, like Duquesne, Southwest Kennywood, if you don't know where it's at, and it's a small, more of a, city municipality. The Jefferson Hills is more like we are out in, more in the suburbs.
Yeah, definitely more complicated.
So that it would be two different points of view. So probably a phone call to those two to find out, hey, why are you doing this? Or what motivated you to do it? It would just be interesting to.
Yeah, I will reach out to both of them, get their thoughts, what has pushed them to do this.
Do you know somebody that's on? You knew somebody on Jefferson? Yeah. Somebody told me they knew somebody in Jefferson. I don't, but.
I'm connected with Whitehall. You know, that's like the statement.
I don't know, just.
They're home rule.
It's always good to hear.
Because if there's enough good reasons to do this and enough benefits. And it's going a lot far outweigh the cost, I mean, I definitely want to hear about it, and look at it.
Okay. I can reach out to those two municipalities, it's not a problem. I'll contact them and see if they want to talk to us, and we just ask them straight out, why are they doing this? And,
You ask if they're working with the fund.
yeah, do they have a firm that's helping them as well?
Yeah.
All right, that's
I
it,
mean, if
yeah.
it works out of it,
Yeah.
I think it was still rushing it too much to get it on this fall, because we were talking about it 3 weeks, you had 3 weeks to circulate the petition. And I just felt like.
That's okay.
What?
Yeah, it sounds like we're getting good runway here. So that leads us to like the next bullet item. It's still on old business. Home rule charter RFI. I had asked to put this on here. I know we had the economy leak here. Sounds like DCED.
Yeah, there's another place.
What's the name? This is just to see if there are any vendors, any firms out there that do any kind of advisory work in this area. No cost, but it should be free. To see if they would come and either speak or submit a proposal, not a proposal, but like information back on this is what they do. This is a typical expectation. Is there any objection to this? We're assuming no cost here. So. Okay, on to discussing the PEAA set of payment. So we did the first payment, I think in May or June. This is the second and the third payment. Any thoughts around this? I've gone to the board meeting once. Probably go again. It sounds
Well,
like,
he did provide the requested information.
they did, we looked at it, I think we got copies. The one thing I was curious is, the ask that every municipality had, and everyone's providing a different number. So just, let's see how it lines up this fall. Maybe they'll come up with the rest. But yeah, for most of the stuff that they had requested, like Pine and asked for some data and stuff like that, they pretty much provided it.
Did everyone get their renewals? I got one in the mail the other day.
Yeah, yesterday.
And there was an interesting letter with that showed that they were accredited.
And number one.
Top 1% in the country.
I saw that.
Like 184 of it earned it out of 18,000 some nationally. So they really did come up with a prestigious quality level for sure.
They were very excited about that when they presented it.
Yeah.
Did the holdout or the holdover about, hey, we're not gonna pay this right away, was that something that was done for Jeff, explain to them or, no, okay.
No explanation other than
Yeah.
we paid.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
So,
So this next payment that we're talking about doesn't have any leverage value, it doesn't really mean anything to them at all.
so there's a total amount that was assigned to Franklin Park requested.
Yeah.
This would just be fulfilling us to 2/3 of that level.
Yeah,
If we determine that we need to get some leverage and I'll pay the rest, we could do that. Depending on, it might be a good idea to see how the other municipalities are lined up, how they've lined up or whatnot. Like I have no idea what Marshall has paid. Or Bradford Woods, I thought only paid 5. They were asked for 10. So if we could get that data before we go at this again in December, I guess. We can file.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any harm. I don't know what you guys think.
we should.
Okay.
So we can put the motion in.
Yeah, we can put it on. Okay. On to the next issue, 1623 Norman Drive. So this follow up regarding the water. Do we have any information on this? Thought there might be a problem upstream.
Well, the information I left at the last meeting, we were talking about, Westview Water, did a sample on the water down there. They found a little bit of, chlorine in the water. Basically, I think it's coming from the sprinkler system that they had in the yard. There was a, up on Rochester Road above that, there was a, curb box, which is a, for the water turn off and shut off and had along the road. Had a leak in it. They repaired that up there. I was kind of monitoring, keeping an eye on it the last week, 2 weeks here to see the flow of the water. The flow of the water's cut down drastically, but it's still flowing. I actually was over there today. Got another sample of the water because they're saying it's contaminated water. I mean, you can smell this water. It's clean. There's nothing wrong with it. That's coming out of it. It's flowing out slow. It's still creating that spot on the curb along the road there. And what happens is the residents, when they're mowing the grass clippings are getting down on there, add some leaves and stuff, and that creates a smell too. So I think that's where the possible smell and stuff's coming from. It's up to council on whether we, get in there and try to fix this or not. It's probably gonna cost us, I'm just taking a guess, probably somewhere between maybe $6,000-8,000. I put a basin and pipe in it, trying to pipe it down to the next basin. It's just kind of a area where, like I said, from what I'm figuring, somewhere between labor and materials, to try to repair this, we're gonna have to cut into the road to do it. We'll have to cut probably at least a foot, maybe 18 inches into the road, the edge of the road along the concrete curb there, pipe it all the way down to the next basin. That's the only choice we have to do this. That's all we can do with it. Other than that, it's gonna continue to flow on the road.
Did you say there was a leaking sprinkler system that somebody was blaming some of this on?
No, they had the residents that had the repair done in their yard. They were running a sprinkler in the backyard for the grass that they planted. So some of that water was getting down in there and we kept believing that that's where the chlorine little bit of the chlorine was coming from. It was flowing down into that area of the basin of that water.
Was it causing $6,000 or $8,000 in damage to somebody's property or doing some erosion or something? What's going on?
Well, the reason they did it is because there was water and the residents had wet backyard. They was complaining about spring. There's natural springs going in there. And, it was just, their backyard was constantly wet. And that was the only choice, we had. We've done it before, letting residents take it out to the curb and then let it run down the curb and go into the basins, but, it is creating a little bit of water way down through there, probably 200 feet, along the road there, so,
It doesn't seem like a lot to fix it.
It's not going on the road, but it's going in the middle of like.
it's just falling the curb, it's falling the gutter line of the
But
curb.
Gary's estimate doesn't seem like a lot to fix a water problem for.
Well, and one other time we did this on Shadow Ridge or so, where it was a wet yard, they didn't know what was going on. They did investigate, it was an abandoned farm mine coming, out, so there was abandoned mine drainage. DEP was involved, it was coming out of the street, it was leaving, debris, it wasn't constant. And so we did work with DEP to extend our drain up to the top of the cul-de-sac and put it into the storm system with DEP's approval. They got it into a detention facility and cleaned up the water.
So this
But
is
that was because that was contaminated water and they needed to get it off the streets. This one, if it's a stream, it's going into the stream.
It's going in the drain
Going
It's
in,
going in
that's
the
what I
drain.
mean, well, in the,
eventually.
But it's
beside the
surcharging it,
curb.
or it's not getting there quick enough. Or it's
no,
it's-
it's getting there. They
it's
put a
getting there.
system up to transport it and they cut into the street.
Yeah.
But now it just runs on the surface of there down to
Yeah.
our inlet. So we would essentially put an inlet or something up top and I guess run a line further where there isn't one now.
Okay.
It's only a couple.
Yeah, it's in between two basins. There's probably 400 feet in between the basins and the street. And this is directly in the center of it, so, and it just has to follow the concrete gutter line, down the
Yeah.
road to get into the next
If this
basin.
was a state road, it would be PennDOT's issue. Surface water,
I hear
not
you.
enclosed.
It doesn't seem like a lot to fix this problem.
But it doesn't seem like there's actually a problem.
Yeah,
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Is it
There's
causing
nothing
something?
The only other thing you're gonna,
Yeah.
the only other thing you're gonna run into is if we get into this, there's a possibility we can get into this for a lot of
Quite a
residents.
few.
Because there's already been other complaints in that same housing
So it's
plan
a
about water.
precedent. It's a precedent.
So if they dump it onto the street, we're gonna be probably getting ourselves into a thing to where we're gonna be repairing.
Yeah, out of spring. Spring.
It's, like I said, it's entirely up to council and what to do.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it
It
before.
happens on my street too, up
Yeah.
to me, and
It's pretty common.
it runs down
And then it finds
Like some
finds the little drain and,
and then it goes.
I saw it before coming to our last council meeting, I stopped there and still that was before the repair, so I did see the trickling down. But it is gravitationally going down the drain.
Right.
So, it's following a natural flow. Yeah, if you were to do this one and pipe it in or whatever it is, you're breaking a newly paved road, well, a 1-year-old paved road, that's one problem. So you're damaging that, and the other is, how many more of these are you like fixing up natural currents of the water going through?
What we normally do is we kind of watch this. Since I've been in my position here, we've had spots to where, say over in Glenchester, we repaired a spot over in Glenchester. If we're paving the roads, we know when the road's being paved, we do take care of that at that time. So if this, you're looking at probably a while down because this road was just recently paved, so it's gonna be a while before we get possibly back into that. But we do take care of them when and actually we got one probably next year, which is gonna be down on King William Drive down there, coming up around the bend. There's a natural spring house that feeds out there, so we're gonna probably at some point pipe that down before we pave that road, because that's probably in line with the paving, if we're gonna pave it next year, so, and that's when we try to take care of those problems.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is don't fix this because it doesn't really need a fix at this point.
Yeah, the water's not like overflowing like a massive stream. Even if it rains hard, it doesn't matter because it's coming from a natural spring. So the water flow doesn't change or anything.
But the residents have a concern about the for example, like the winter, and if the water still come out and it become like ice or something, it will become quite slippery. And,
But it's just in the gutter, right? It's not on the
Yes.
sidewalk. Right?
It's hit by the road, so.
Yeah.
it's, and another thing, because I pass it with everything at least twice, and to be honest, and it doesn't make the road not okay, because the water is constantly, flowing. So, and I agree with Gary that the water is clean, but that when the residents, and get some dirt into the water, so it make water like look bad and often sometimes may smell bad. So what I'm thinking is just like, if it's an easy fix, it doesn't cost that much, and we should really look into that.
But just keep in mind that the precedent that would be set would be other residents who have similar water runoff would be coming into the borough and saying, you did it for them, you gotta do it for us. And then we'd be taking on an expense that I'm not certain how much that's going to, what the domino effect would be. So while I would normally say, yeah, it's not that expensive, it may very well be opening up kind of the gates where everybody's asking us to fix everything. Right.
That's a
Yeah.
That's a really a decent concern, but
Yeah.
the issue with this one is just like, it looks like, and this problem is kind of what's generated by kind of trying to fix that, the problem in the residents' backyard, because previously, the couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, and when the pipe was not there, and there was no issue and with this, but right now it's kind of like this problem was created, kind of by us, right? I think that, and so the residents were complaining because of a couple of weeks ago, or like the last couple of years, and the problem was not there, and right now, since that you put pipe there and the water that constantly flow and into the kind of on the road, it's just like that. And so it's still kind of concern, and so because I was like I've been approached by those residents a couple of times, and if I tell them like and it's because that if we fix your problem, and then the other residents will come to us and ask to fix their problem, and that's not the solution. I can explain to them. So if you guys have really good other explanation that I can provide it to them.
What's the source of the water? What do you know where the water's coming?
From what I understand, it's coming, it's private property, it's a spring water coming off the private property.
And we didn't do anything, it's just the facilities that are there, don't go all the way to the little pit where the water would get dropped.
We have a policy that if you have a spring that springs,
Yeah.
and engineers can talk about how these kind of ebb and flows, and sometimes there's a spring there and then it goes away, so who knows if this is permanent, but in terms of our solution to somebody who has water accumulated there, they are allowed to drain to the street as opposed to hooking up downspout or whatever, but so that is the solution. So it's not so much that we created the problem, it's just to address a resident having a spring, opening up and having their land saturated, to give them an outlet. This one just goes down further, and it could change. Hydrology could change in a year. They could just bubble up somewhere else.
It is actually part of the stormwater system.
Yeah.
It's designed for it.
So the mitigation that we allowed, instead of having to take their little storm drain and run it right into their property and actually put more, we're actually allowing them to send it to the street where it heads eventually.
And this is recent that they put these pipes to drain.
Last few months, right?
Yes, nothing was some.
Interesting.
So that's why I know, and because it's kind of constantly flowing, so especially in the, it's also mentioned when that there is some like grass and or something like in the water, it just make it look bad. But I agree, and those are kind of like, the water is clean, and you can tell when you get close, and but it's still like, when it's constantly, growing, it's just like, make people feel like, especially in those houses near that, and like the water flow, and make them like feel uncomfortable. And also, like,
So we've had, I mean, we put in water lines on Hopkins Church Road, so we did it, but it was paid for by the residents. Residents put in sidewalks, I could be paying for that. If you think this is gonna be an issue otherwise, it is sort of allowing work to be done in the street, but there could be a form of an assessment to the property owners, not just the one that's caused, but they're that concerned. If you do a 4,000, 4,000,
Yeah.
4,000.
Right.
Work it. I don't know, then you find out how big of a problem it is or otherwise, but it was, sorry, I don't know about staffing and timing and working into the schedule and all of that. And I'm sure that's probably not something somebody wants to hear and say I pay my property taxes, 1.2 mils or so. Something, 1.29. Something to consider because it is a more individualized issue.
It's a specific to that geographic and not spread across the entire borough.
Right.
So it only benefits
Those three
those
houses.
landowners.
Yeah, it looks like it crosses 3 driveways, just on the picture.
yeah, three house.
Okay, my concern, initially, I would say, let's don't spend money to do this. My only concern is in the winter, if it's not icy, this is still gonna be, I mean, if it's cold, this is still gonna be, right, frozen, if there's no precipitation, there's no reason to treat the roads. This is still gonna be an issue for those people. So my initial response would be, no, let's don't spend $6,000 or $7,000 to fix this, but how do we address that in the winter when the roads aren't being treated?
That could be, they can throw their own salt on their driveway. We don't salt people's driveway.
Is that the
You would just
driveway?
throw
No, this is
Another hand.
the road. I think cross from their driveway to the road or vice versa.
That's
So you're plowing, you're shoveling that.
So it's the apron?
Yeah.
Whatever they call it.
Yeah.
This is the.
Especially below the apron.
yeah.
I think this is
Just
when
like
the flow was heavy.
Yeah.
Right, Gary, this.
Yeah, we do salt ice spots in the winter time. I mean, we get calls for icy areas, our trucks are out, salt ice spots too, so, I mean, if that came out onto the roadway, we would be salting.
Okay.
On days it's not with no precipitation,
Yeah.
or no snow or whatever, we salt, we get called out all the time for icy conditions,
That's
so.
also my concern.
If that's, I mean, it might be something maybe to look at through the winter just to see
I
what it
I
does.
think so.
And then,
Keep it up, maybe
and say, if this
monitor
could
it,
be,
see.
this would be a problem, maybe, I mean, and, we can, maybe address it in the springtime or something. There's always a possibility, that the spring could, could dry up or, since it's been opened up to where it's flowing now, there's different, different ways of looking at it.
So just monitor it for now.
Is that possible that the path can go through it and sidewalk, not like on the road?
You're not gonna probably go through the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's through the sidewalk and down.
It's
What it is, it's.
Here it is.
Already.
And then it's.
I know,
it's down.
because
It's on the
I'll be like, I have
It's on the
to go
curve.
100 of times for that. So what I'm saying that, because for the road, and we have to fix it, right? But if we, for example, go from here. This way. I'm sorry, go this way.
So have him drop his water onto the sidewalk instead of into the road.
No, the sidewalk and go, the better path and go through it, the sidewalk and then go past that and a few house and they'll
So you're
drive.
saying running the pipe under the sidewalk?
Yeah,
In between the sidewalk and the road, isn't there like?
I know it's under the sidewalk and because there is like space and that grow like the grass or something like that. Can we go through that? And not like the
In the
on the
in the
road?
grass area?
Yeah,
You have utilities in there?
yeah.
Well, there's, you mean to dump the water, try to dump the water into the grass area?
No, it just goes through like a pipe.
Piping.
Yeah,
Oh,
piping.
piping?
Yeah, is that possible?
Well, and take it down, you start talking.
Yeah, take it down.
to the
Take it down,
basin, to the basin or
yeah.
just on the curb? If we try to take it down to the basin, you still got driveways to cross, you know what I mean, and. to
Oh,
get it
yeah.
down.
Still-
There's still driveways you
Yeah,
gotta
there's
cross, so
driveway.
we'd have to replace concrete.
Maybe going underneath, right? So I mean, that's the idea, is go underneath.
Max, does this open us up to any kind of liability if we know this is an issue in the winter and it's icy and
Yeah.
something happens?
Not necessarily, usually the types of, the road defects or potholes and the things of that nature. And you have
Of not.
notice of them, things of that nature.
Right, Max, it's of the, it's
Right.
the defect of the premise,
Right.
not on the premise.
Right.
So, yeah. So your municipal liability is cut off.
Because I kind of worry about them, the residents may bring up like, for example, like, as I mentioned in the couple months ago, that pipe was not there and there was no problem with actually, water on the road or something, but right now, and even like, and legally, and we have to do that, and, but still, and no matter, and how we can, interpret this and, but we still create this kind of problem because we install the pipe there and let the water flow.
We
No, no, the
They-
property
they
owner
installed-
installed.
that raises an interesting point.
Yeah.
Just because we told them, go ahead and move the water off your property onto there.
Come
We-
into the stress.
We did not,
Okay.
we did not.
We didn't do it.
We did not know that the result would be this, did we? I mean, that's something we wouldn't have seen until they actually did the remediation. Are we in a position to go back to the property and say, look, this remediation is not doing what it's doing much more than we thought it was gonna do to the rest of the neighbors.
What are we?
Maybe in an
gonna do?
extreme case, if like you had a geyser coming
Yeah,
out
that's-
of there or so, but like in terms of like, you knew it was stormwater, it was coming, or not stormwater, but groundwater. I mean, it's contained, it's in what the road is built for, it's just on the surface rather than right into an inlet right there. So I don't think us coming to it telling them, hey, pull it out because
Yeah.
it hasn't stopped. I mean, we knew it was gonna happen. It's,
So it came, and when they installed that, and the pipe, and did they get permit from us?
No, it was just, they come in and ask about it, and I just told them that that's a normal process. I mean, this is the way it's been done before, before I even got my position. I mean, it was always done that way. We were just told to go ahead and, let the resident run it down and put a little curb cut in the concrete curb and dump it right onto the gutter line. I mean, this is,
We don't regulate that.
yeah, we've never had anything.
We've seen other houses that do that in the borough too.
It sounds like understandable, you're a little concerned about what you need to say to the residents, because we're
Yeah.
not solving anything from their perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I understand.
Because this kind of issue it's, I don't know, and whether it, like in future, whether it will, generate more kind of like issue or whatever, and because the water is, as I said, is constantly flowing on the road. So I'm not so sure, and maybe one day or sometime, and it will become quite heavy or whatever, and so it's something like that, and it's not actually, and not something like other like a house, and when they don't have issue and in the backyard, they see something like, just, and the water just like, and flow and like past their driveway and or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
That's
not
the purpose of the gutter line there. The gutter line is to receive water, not only through the crown of the road, but from outside lots. So the design of the roads are designed to take water in that gutter line and move it to catch basins. So, even though it doesn't flow as fast as we would like, it's there, and if it gets enough water, it's gonna do that. It has to do that. There's, can't do anything else. So, I believe there are some provisions in the ordinance that basically state that, groundwater should be discharged into the gutter line of the river. So, I mean, this is anything new.
Well, I think for the time being, it sounds like Gary said, this water may ebb and flow in 6 months or not being no water flowing. So it sounds like if I can speak on council, we have a council here, we're gonna wait and see what the water issue is. Is it a bigger issue? Is it a non-issue? And in the meantime, over the winter, they'll salt it when it becomes necessary.
Yeah, maybe, and because, and I talked to the homeowner of that house, and we had the issue with that one. This kind of thing has been there, like, the backyard becomes so wet or that, like, quite bit and water on their backyard. That has been like that for a couple of years. So so that's why I kind of like, I don't think that the water will, the issue will become better, in future. So that's why, if it's just like constant happening, so, whether that, how to like solve that issue or whatever, and shall we tell them like, next time when that, when this road will get fixed, and then we can install a pipe or something like that. So,
So you can tell them it's on the list of things for. Yeah. It's part of the future plans for construction, I think maybe. That would be
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Laura, I think you put it pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand the concern. But Laura, I think you said it pretty well, like the way you stated it. But Gary, when you do go out and solve roads. And you're not.
Yeah, I'll
solving
definitely
them,
have them keep an eye on that area over there,
Well, I was gonna say you track it, right?
Where,
Keep a
where?
record of like, you went to this place at Norman Drive, like X number of times, like.
Yeah,
Do we have
not so
enough
much, not so much, we get caught
Just wanna
up,
make
we get
sure.
caught up right in conditions and,
Yeah.
you know, what I mean, and our guys, I'll definitely make sure that, the guys, when they're doing that plan, that, that is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's, even if it doesn't snow or ice, we should track it because there's a cost for your guys to go do this, right? So at a certain point, it might be beneficial to posting stuff, not just this, but like in general. So if it costs $100 any time to go do this.
Yeah. I don't know who's gonna keep track of that, so that we can audit it, but. I
Yeah,
get
just
your
to
point.
get an idea, right?
Yeah.
If you're going like every 3 days, so like once season, I mean, it's not, it's like gas, it's a cost.
Yeah.
Labor, right? Yeah, so we should probably this in general.
Yep.
And then that might like push, if this is still a problem, with you. Either go to 3 homes and figure it out, or the piping issue.
yeah, can you also like, you have the chance to talk to the residents there, and just like, the house of the 1623, I think there's 25, 27, right? I think those are 2 or 3 houses that are affected by this one. Can you also find a chance to talk to them and regarding like, what do we have?
Okay, yeah,
What
I
we'll
will,
do, and,
I'll make.
yeah, we'll monitor the situation with and also like that, to probably check the water and the flowing water, and and just make sure that nothing serious will happen in future. So this is something like you really, and when you live there, and you can feel like the residents concern. But if you live in another place, you don't see it, and every day you'll be fine. Okay.
Thanks. All right, on new business, regular agenda, regular meeting agenda.
All right,
Very easy.
added one motion already. No invited guests, or preliminary matters, or anything else like that, but we do have our public hearing on the, affectionately known as townhomes ordinance, although it's multifamily buildings, the garage size, as well as some of the provisions streamlining it for the other zoning districts. Planning Commission, if you saw, not have a quorum in August, does have this on their agenda for the 17th, day before. We did get comments from Allegheny County, they're in the packet. Got those as well. We fielded questions already from Mr. Schweiger. The Terra Plan / Cardinal Ridge is one of the drivers for this. Acknowledged, he is chomping at the bit. He thought, maybe we had invoked the pending zoning ordinance doctrine, therefore it could apply right now. Told him, no, we didn't do that. We didn't pass a resolution, we didn't invoke it, and we usually don't for liberalizing changes as opposed to restrictions of when it says you can't do something, we. But that,
What if council knows what the planning commission comes back with?
yeah. I mean, that's,
So that's only the night before. Right?
yeah, no. I mean, it's unfortunate we're able to meet and get a quorum together. We're still within the time periods.
Is the letter not in the packet? I know I read it.
Yeah, it is.
It's in there.
I think I attached it to my report.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of their comments I wanted to talk.
It was an unintended consequence of
That's
the
the one.
additional density.
That's the one, yeah.
You know, you're
What do you
creating
think about
additional density with this ordinance.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
In terms of, yeah, changing, I know that that comment and then the sort of comment, why is this even in zoning to begin with? Which is something we've talked about some time ago. Aesthetics are not really what we're supposed to be directing through zoning or otherwise. But I believe in terms of the density numbers, they're still unchanged. This just changed the height,
Yeah.
how you could get with respect to both apartment buildings and townhomes, and then the width of the garage being bigger than it is allowed right now. So I didn't see a density.
Yeah, density and non-conformity, that's what I was.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. I mean, this started out, in my opinion, it started out with the width of the garage doors. Because a lot of people did want, a lot of people wanted 2 cars in.
Right.
And our ordinance doesn't allow a garage door that was
Big enough.
50% of the frontage of it. And we looked at some other examples, I don't know, somehow morphed from that into.
Well, it also had a height, it had a height request, it was those
We
two.
took care of that, and we made.
The
it
land use
consistent.
committee then took it one step further and said, well, we're changing the height for this zoning district. What we're talking about here, why is it different for others, and why was there an 8 height?
And we talked about the fact that the fire engine can't reach the number of stories that was in our thing, and that wasn't very safe, so we then dropped down the height. Yeah, we did all that.
So yeah, it'll be the same process. We will hopefully get a written report out of the planning commission the night before, open it for public comment. They expect Mr. Schwager to be there. I don't know who else has an opinion about it. You will have the option to vote that night. It will have been advertised for potential action, but you can also table further discussion. And if there are some changes to the ordinance based on council decisions or planning commission recommendations or anything else, we go through the process.
And we'll have plans for it. Assuming you guys don't table
We
it.
are having, Tim, do you know if we're having a planning commission meeting? I didn't see an email. I'm assuming. Yeah.
But no other applications or
It would
things.
be.
Well, there is an
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
we have a condition of this application.
Okay. All right.
There's no reason to
Well,
come.
yeah. I'll be there.
No, do the commissioners like respond
They,
to let them know that they won't be there, or is? it
yeah,
all
so,
last minute?
like, for example, I base instead of on the side, say, like, I'll be there. And then some people will just like email during the day, I can't be there, or I will be there.
Yeah, we lost Wayne.
So you kind of know, like,
We're down.
yeah,
one.
it's,
We're
we,
down to 8.
I just didn't know if it would be helpful, if there was like a deadline, the Friday before, let us know. That way you're not.
usually it's,
feeling
an
at the
yeah,
last
and
minute.
usually it's been an emergency, like, say.
Right,
So those kind of
right,
things.
that stuff happens, I get it, I just didn't.
Yeah, you didn't show up last time, and just sort of quorum.
Yeah, there's a school event, and I think like a few of us were like at that event, so.
That makes sense.
And because-
Quorum there, we could have just met.
Yeah,
Change it.
but it wasn't advertised the location.
I'm stay there. I think that's the right answer though.
Yeah.
I was just, like I said, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
generally speaking, we're okay. This is the first time it's happened in a long time.
Yeah, it was a comedy of errors.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, they'll try to come up with something and let council know, yes, or let funnel some feedback back.
Tim can give an oral presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's an advisory commission, so it's not get like, say, yes, we approve, and we don't approve, but they do by comments.
Cardinal, what zone district is that in over on?
Into
Into- I noticed that we're allowing townhouses to go up to 3 stories, but we limit all single family to 2. So they're allowed to be taller than.
The townhouse has to be connected, right?
Mhm.
So that's how it's defined.
Yes. When we say 3, does that include the? You look at these townhouses, they always have the garages and an entrance. Is it that plus 3 more, or is it?
It could be, it all depends on the grade of the land. If it's a flat piece of land, you're gonna literally have 4 stories above grade.
4 stories?
It'll be a basement, 3 stories above.
Yeah, what's for Ron, those look.
Yeah, they're up there.
Like they're 4, yeah.
You're 4 story building.
Yeah,
I think I like the ground floor, garage and everything, and then 2 floors above that. I don't know, the 3 floors above that, you're really getting up there. There's a whole new development right now, and I see it because both my kids are up there, right at the Little Creek exit of, right across from Seneca High School. And believe it or not, there are only the garage, and there's only one floor with the garage and 1 above. And they have a whole row of them there. You can see them right from 71 across. I drove over and looked at them. I'm thinking, boy, that's, I guess you count that as 2 floors versus we're gonna allow double that height.
Are they wider? Or how do they?
They're a little bit wider, and I think they're a little deeper, because I think there's living space behind them. And then it seems like the entrance of one, the step door goes in, but then there's a soffit above it, because there's living space right above where the entrance door when you came in.
Over Ridge Forest, you'll see that same thing.
We're building a ton of these up in Harmony, right outside of Harmony. And I guess that's probably Harmony over there too, on the other side of the interchange, but.
Yeah, it's building back.
Let's see what the planning commission says.
Okay, so you report to staff for hearing closer.
Yeah, sure, I had, put together a list that I've included in the packet. I didn't really have anything other than that to add, other than I just kind of expect to be having a lot of budget work this month in the coming days, and weeks. I didn't really have anything,
Good job on the audit. Thanks for doing that.
With my reports, nothing else to add. I thought maybe we'd be talking about that. I thought maybe it was gonna be in the manager report to talk about the, Norman Drive. So,
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't have anything else to add to mine, unless anybody else has any questions.
Thank you for doing that.
That's good.
So, planning commission this month will have, obviously the townhouse, ordinance to review, and also an application for property on Mackley Road. They want to put a ground mounted solar array. So that's conditional use application there. So they'll be looking at that. And then the zoning hearing board this month, has a, request, for a variance for a side yard encroachment on Henry Lane.
Is that the conditional use we just did?
The ground mounted solar.
No, the, Digis property.
Well, that was
Different?
They're rethinking their options.
Oh, all right.
And trying to create some options there. Yeah. So that'll go to the zoning hearing board for that. And then the only other thing I have to report on, proud to say that I was able to get a hold of Paul Galveston. And those of you who don't know who that is, it's the gentleman that owns the property over in Settlers Walk that we've been trying to obtain. He said to me that he would be glad to help us in anything.
I'm talking about that in executive session. We got a couple of things.
That's all I have.
Quick question, I was looking at the list of notices of violations, it's a lot shorter, thank you for that. There is one, that, maybe there's a few, but it says investigating, I want to say November 2023. What does it mean when it's investigated? What's
That's
happening?
Andy's,
Yeah.
it could mean that, some of that stuff has been, through courts and then it's sitting in law.
Okay. This one I don't think was a court. This was, I'll kind of give you, you may or may not know this one. So not much. This one, I don't think it's gonna take very long. This is, on the bouncing ball at tracking number 23, that's 1032. It was a home occupancy based business that hadn't filed for conditional use or a permit. And it turned out it was music instruction over at one of the town.
We don't know whether we can't get enough information.
Good enough. Okay.
So,
Good.
I mean,
Okay.
some of these things, when they have a home-based business, there's just, we can't find advertisements, we can't find,
Right.
but the neighbors know that this is happening. We just don't know.
The only reason it came up was because I was looking at the page of it, and then I'm like, okay, well, then I went through and I saw section 212, 1907, A1A, saying it was an express permitted use for music instruction in the home-based thing. And that seemed to conflict with the definition of a home occupancy based business.
So
How do you fix that?
if they're doing that, if they're giving lessons,
Yeah.
that is a home occupation.
Mhm.
So what they're doing is they're changing the character of the neighborhood by parking and inviting the neighborhood in, or inviting, customers in, I might say. So, we have a process for that. If it's a home-based business, then it doesn't change the character of the neighborhood. It's somebody sitting at a desk in a den, typing up an order for widgets and gets phone calls and emails and orders that way, and no shipping there, no storage, no warehousing, no receiving. So that's this is not a home occupation, it's a home-based business.
I'll take this offline with you because I think I'm just not understanding, but that's cool.
We just don't have, we did have some evidence of advertisement, but what happened was, once we got involved here with this and notified them, the parking situation dried up.
There was well, and my other concerns that if I'm reading it right, the process of music instruction where you have one or two students, that type of thing, looks like it's expressly permitted use under the ordinance from what I'm reading. So I might be confused.
So it would be a conditional use.
There's two types. There's a no impact home-based business,
Yeah.
which, NBC says you gotta allow in every zoning district.
Yeah.
Like that, but then home occupation, has an impact, and then it goes through.
Yeah, so anything
This
that,
one seems to, our ordinance seems to envision that there's, that music instruction, like piano or whatever, would be an expressly permitted use the way I'm reading it. So I need to talk to you about it. So I can understand. I'm good. I don't want to talk about it on here. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Taking
good.
it off.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
You have my report. I have nothing additional at this time. Report, I guess two things, mainly the golf course would be our scholarship outing for next year, if we want to proceed with
July
that.
28th.
Yeah, the last Monday, as it usually is. So if everyone's okay with it, I'll get the new contract for next month to have it here and signed for the next year's scholarship outing. And then, well, I guess we have it in here as well, but the golf, the one bid. Now the one company, one of the companies I talked to in the spring didn't even know the bid was out. So not much, but because I based, what they had told, both companies were around 40, and that's what we had budgeted, and this only one that came in was obviously way higher. So.
You can reject all bids, every bid. I was entering the scholarship golf outing on my calendar on it, but it's noticed. But yeah, I mean that, And because we got a letter, I mean, we had the bid opening, how many did we get?
One. Yeah,
Only one?
yeah. That's significant.
Have a motion on to reject you should say all bids, but there would be the bid. React.
Is that what you want to do?
And it's, I mean, you know, that, I know we, in the budget meetings last year, we talked about trying to do it in-house. That would save some costs, but also the guys are busy with, I know Gary's guys are busy, and I won't be busy with Acorn this year.
Yeah, and you want to do like hardy board too.
It's already board, it's usually, it's not that it's specialty, but it is, you know, they have a certain way they send people to classes to specifically put up hardy board. You know, they're certified companies out there that put just hardy board up, so a little more than what we dealt with.
Yeah.
One contractor that was way out of the area, he was down past Washington towards.
The only one we have, I didn't even investigate as to who it was.
Yeah, I saw the bid and I said, "Man, that guy's like."
Resnick's is one I had talked to initially in spring to get some parameters and what their thoughts were. But when I called him, he somehow didn't even know that there was no. Time.
Up to you.
No, I think that was, I'm sure I was.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Motion. We get it on the day before.
So we have 3, 12, and 17.
Yeah.
Just a couple quick updates since we published our memo. Acorn Park, contractor's been out doing some kind of layout, staying out this week. Real construction should start Monday, scheduled this upcoming Monday. So you'll start to see, aside from the activity you've seen for us, you'll also start to see some activity from independent enterprises, through all the paperwork stuff, had a pre-construction meeting with Conservation District, all that stuff. So
What's the ETA on wrapping it up?
it'll spill over into next year for restoration and all that. Yeah. I would think, we're talking about kind of park opening and something in spring of 25. And then you've noticed it as you've been driving by, the Deerfield is working again on phase 2A. With some storm sewers. Last few days they've been working on water line installation back to storm sewers, and we expect them to pave the road this season here so that they can start selling lots to continue to see activity up there. We talked about the Clover Hill Golf Course bids, and the rest of the stuff in the memo is still current. Answer any other questions if there are any.
You don't know how to install hardy board, do you?
No.
We do have some updates, since our report was, provided. The Ramblewood, project, we have advertised that, should be, in the paper the next 2 weeks. And then we're also finalizing the bid documents for that project. And then we're also gonna run Montgomery concurrently, so that hopes are maybe we can get some lower prices if, you know, there's options for more work. Matterhorn should be wrapping up next week, which is good, get that out of our hair. Fish Run, we have officially made it to technical review, and they have, put this out for public notice, so that's good indication that we're on that one too. And then the last item is the MX4 report. We should have that for you early to mid next week at the latest for review. I'd like to try to get to you by the end of the week, but almost. Definitely early to mid next week at the very least.
So you have the chief's report, nothing really to add on that. But over Tuesday and Wednesday, Bruce Kennedy and Brian Schultz were up at our station to give us a hand with installing privacy screens on the cells as part of the accreditation. And I just wanted to thank Gary and to mention what a great job, particularly Bruce, but also Scooter there, did outstanding. It turned out a lot better than I expected. Really, really looks good. Bruce is really detail oriented, almost
They
just
were,
like,
they were buffing up that aluminum to make it look like.
it's very fancy. So if you need something like that, but, yeah, they did a great job. I was really, really impressed. And Bruce is quite the craftsman. So, but that's all that we.
I missed National Night Out, so I didn't get to see the enclosure, but it's all set up in the garage. And
Yeah,
go there.
yeah, that's all done, and the White Radar trailers should be picked up tomorrow by Economy, and they're appreciative of the donation of that, more appreciative than gotten that out of more space. That's all I have.
Okay. Yeah, so just looking at the rest of the agenda, do we? Sounds like staff can move.
Yeah, unless there's, I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's like it's about the sidewalks.
Yeah, does anybody know that sidewalk standard?
Yeah, what's the sidewalk notification?
It's like 2 bullets down. Okay, well, sounds like that's coming up.
We covered Clover Walk.
We covered Clover Hill, okay, I'm good, right?
Mr. President,
Yep.
if I could. I
Sure.
got, I don't know where we're at on this, but are we at the, modifications for sidewalk standards?
We're close.
Okay,
We're almost there.
we're good, okay.
Okay, and then want to ask for senior programming. Is that a red? Is that a? Sure. Okay. All right, well, if that's the case, sounds like everyone else.
Yeah, you said.
Questions, MMO? MMO, purchase plans. Do we put it out?
I would have said yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a report.
Oh,
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, they were about to.
It just has to be presented to council for the 2025 MMO, so it's in the packet. So we just always put it on the agenda, it's noted in the minutes, so we comply.
Okay, so now we need to. This is the November.
Reach has signed them, the signed copies are in the packet. They'll be uploaded back to.
This is the November.
Yeah.
This is the annual contribution. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, very good.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Should we go to sidewalk next?
Yes. I mean, Mayor. Sure.
Okay, Mayor, you're back. Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay, well, back in the room, we have Timothy Marilone, and he came to actually talk about this subject. It seemed to get some misinformation that he could come tonight and speak to us about what he's going to bring up on this. But I explained to him that this is the work session, and there's nothing on the agenda in 2 weeks that he can talk to it. But I'm not so sure what his questions are, but he had, there seemed to be a misunderstanding. He could come tonight and talk to us about it.
The public comments in 2 weeks.
Hmm?
He could talk in 2 weeks of public comments.
When, in 2 weeks?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yes. What was it, but I don't know what the discussion was going to be tonight.
We don't know.
we don't know because
Regis.
Reed is sick. He's not available.
Oh.
That's why. But Tim, that's put you on the spot there, but like, do you have any idea of what's?
Well, Reach did talk to me about this, and that's the only reason I know about it. Apparently, there's, this goes with the, Ed Tanner situation. And those lots on Brinsville Road, so, I guess the homeowner would like to maintain his driveway, which is asphalt, to the connection of Brinsville Road, and use that asphalt as the apron for his driveway and not connect the sidewalk, in other words, and the sidewalk on each side of the driveways. So, we don't have any detail of that. I'm not sure how that would work. Asphalt and concrete are two different things. We sell issues, whatever, but I mean, that's something we've never done. We never did.
So the borough's,
We have the borough council to make that
so
decision.
the borough has never encountered this in the past.
It's never been done. Yeah, that's not the standard. So,
There's concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Apron.
the concrete apron everywhere.
Is there a reason why? There's a side drivers everything.
The driveway's already, yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
you know, so, I mean, typically what would happen would, you know, I mean, everything was bonded, that bond should take care of the removal of the asphalt replacement or the issue with that. So that gets out of my purview.
Yeah, it's something we need to hear from Rachel.
So Timothy, was that kind of what you were wanting to hear?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's, he explained
Yes.
it well. I mean, I guess I'm not on talk about it tonight, but
Well, we were just talking, it's at the
Yeah.
chair's discretion because we don't have the manager here tonight, so.
Yeah, since we know the context, since you're here, if you just want to explain. real quick.
I mean,
Doesn't mean you can't do anything.
To be honest with you, we thought that it would be better to not disturb our driveway, originally. But then we thought about it again and it probably would look dumb because we lost the battle on the sidewalks already. But what we were coming to talk to you guys about was, I mean, again, if you don't want me to get into this tonight, then I can wait for 2 weeks, but,
It's okay, I mean, just was funny.
yeah, I mean, like, so basically, like, the whole thing with the sidewalks has been a disaster for everybody. I think everybody can agree on that. Like, we got this was the drawing that got, I guess, like, allowed us to get an occupancy permit to move in. There are no sidewalks there. So you guys allowed us to build the driveway and spend $25,000 on the driveway. And now you're telling us that we have to spend $5,000 more to remove our driveway? Like, the disconnect for me is kind of, I don't really understand it. So I guess I'm just trying to understand the situation a little bit more.
And this, yeah, Tim mentioned this has been involved in litigation. This is 5 lots.
Right.
It was a requirement to have sidewalks from the beginning. Those were bonded. The developer at the time said, I don't want to put them in.
And that's what
They have to be, and so he put money out and, you know, construction has happened. We don't issue occupancy permits based on sidewalks being installed because it's only, you know, can you occupy the structure if we be held off, you know, and everywhere because the developers and the builders come in, do sidewalks last, so they're not jumped out with the construction materials going through a plan or so. So we've had that argument. The developer has accused and blamed the borough for all this, but it is 100% the developer's issue.
Yeah, I don't, like, I'm not disagreeing with anything there, but I guess my thought is if we knew that we had to put in sidewalks, which nobody necessarily told us that we had to, like, we had the plans drawn up for the driveway. There was no sidewalk in it, it got approved, we moved in, about $25,000 government driveway, and now you're telling me that I need to dig up my $25,000 driveway to put a sidewalk through it. My thing is, if it goes inside the driveway at $7,000, if I dig up my driveway, it goes to $12,500. There's a $5,500 difference because I already have my driveway built, which we didn't know that we were gonna have to have sidewalks originally whenever we did this. There's a disconnect there for me. So I guess our question is, how can I get $5,500 from somebody?
Sue the developer because that is a requirement. If the sidewalks are shown on the recorded plans, or references in there. If he either told you you didn't need sidewalks or said, oh, it's fine, because we've heard that statement has been made that, you know, assured other people, well, the borough will never install these or, you know, it's fine. Worked it out, which you never did.
Right.
So those are potentially fraudulent statements. But at least in terms of the borough's construction, I mean, we took the amount of money that had been put forward for this, we have spent, you know, the rest, you know, with the installer, and we are going back after the developer to make up the difference as well. And if, you know, your costs, and I don't know all the details of where it is, we can figure out what region, how that can work. That could also be a claim that's added in the borough's claim against the developer because he's responsible for building it per the plans that he agreed to do, signed the development agreement for, bonded, and then walked away.
Okay, no, that's really understand on the legal side.
Well, and to be perfectly honest with you, that sidewalk isn't on the property, it's in the,
Right.
or state, or the, county road right away.
Right, so what is that? What is that? Explain what that means to me. as far-
What that means is the developer is responsible for this, you know, I don't know why the money's coming out of your pocket.
Yeah, it seems to be coming out of my pocket.
I don't know why,
I think it's because like whenever we built the house, so Patel built the first 3 homes. We didn't want Patel to build our home, so we got Schumacher to build our home. So whenever we built our home, Ed told us that there won't be need for sidewalks, right?
Ah, there you go.
So
There's
all
one.
the other people, I guess, that already built it, put that allowance, I guess, into their mortgage. Or maybe, I'm not sure. We didn't because we didn't think that we were gonna need to do it. And now it's coming back on us that we have to, like we've had bids for it, like we have to pay this contractor $12,500 October 1st to get this done.
All those come to Ed, and the thing with that is that he, as a developer, was responsible, and he had to bond those sidewalks, so if he's pushing that off onto somebody else, that's not something that we have control of.
So does Ed have the money to do this?
No, we do.
You guys do.
Well, we have a part of the money.
You have a part
We
of
had
the money.
12,500, is that there was a sidewalk going off in front of these. I mean, that amount changes if there are different changes because of the governor driveway put there and it would change the.
Okay,
Put in.
so you guys are
But he's
holding that,
No, we seized it.
you see,
12,500, and then the cost to actually install it because it took some time,
Yeah.
the cost went up. Yeah, but we were waiting for that final number from the contractor
okay,
for an invoice and demand.
and that hasn't, you guys haven't,
I haven't seen that one yet. I think they were still in the maintenance.
so does that
period.
include our sidewalk as well, or no?
Well, and that's why I can't speak without Reed. I know he had talked, there were certain residents that said, no, I'll do this on my own, and there were you one that was, there was one that was a vacant lot.
That wasn't us. That was
Not
one
you.
that was the Augustins.
Oh, okay, all
That's the one
right.
that-
So I can't speak to exactly how.
And I think they're gonna
Any of that
install their own.
Yeah, so that's what because we were gonna kind of do it together.
Yes, yeah.
Well, because they were building their house and like it didn't make sense to do all of it until theirs was done, so like we were gonna kind of do it together. With it, but now like. So. Have you guys looked at the sidewalks? Is they are put in now?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that our engineer's been put involved with, council probably hasn't.
I drove by, but they're starting to go in.
Did we have it?
I've driven by, so are you on a road like 5 homes and then
Yeah.
cameras?
Yeah, we're the White House.
Okay, I think I know where this is, some seeds, some sidewalks go in. Maybe a couple homes out.
All of them are built now.
Okay.
Yeah, all of them, but they just finished the other house like 2 weeks ago. And they're moving in, they're getting their driveway done and their yard is done on that. So, can we kind of talk about like the standard then of, I guess, Franklin Park with the sidewalks? The sidewalks are terrible. One, like the sidewalk that goes and connects to North Lawn Farms is 2 feet below Brainsville Road. Like, so for our sidewalks to meet, there's gonna need to be a grade all the way down to that, which doesn't necessarily make sense to me. 2, the house that was built next to us is built 20 feet closer to the road. How did that happen?
They got a variance of it. But there was an issue beforehand because there was a mistake of the flooding, so it was a variance spot for forgiveness. And in terms of, standards or however it goes in, I mean, yes, but the reason why it's on the developer to do first, because they're trying to sell these lots, they are trying to build everything else. when it falls to us, then we've got to fill in and do the work after the fact when we don't walk away. So it might not be ideal. So if you've done it individually or others, they got to work with the way it was set up.
Well, I guess from talking to the contractor who built the home, the surveyor and engineer screwed up. And they thought it was 50 feet from the road, but it's 50 feet from the easement off of the road.
Right.
So they missed that 20 feet in there, 50 feet or whatever it is. So they needed to get the variance for it. But like go back to standard, like now we have a house that is sitting directly in front of us. So that standard doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Because it looks terrible from our point of view. But that variance was pushed through. I'm not sure why, probably because it would be a ton of money for them to tear down their house and push their house back, whatever it is. Now, again, I understand that it's not you guys in its head, but like the standard doesn't seem to be the standard on Branch School Road. Because with our sidewalks, we're not allowed to go inside our driveway because of the standard of Franklin Park. But the standard of that house moving 20 feet closer to the road is okay?
The way that was addressed through a public process in front of the zoning hearing board, probably got notice, I don't know, timing, when you built or other ones. But that is a process, and if somebody's objecting, you're in close proximity, you have the ability to go up and make objections and say it's not a hardship or it should not be granted. And if it's voted on, you can take an appeal. But, once that time period is closed, they follow the process. That's the result, at least for that particular lot in those circumstances, but everything else, it doesn't, impact changing subdivision land development standards for the sidewalk that was required to be in front of these 5 houses. As Mr. Tanner knew, applied and granted approval and show up.
Understood. Understood.
And now it has been an off, it has been, Reach has spent a lot of time dealing with every property owner, you yourself, explaining it to them. We've got a lot of pressure. People came in, kids want sidewalks.
Oh, that was us.
Yeah. So we've heard, that as well.
To that point, not to like, again, I don't wanna. There's those sidewalks. And I'm still go to my grave with this with those sidewalks. I was pulled into my house a couple months ago and there was 3 high school girls walking down those sidewalks, which should never happen because there shouldn't be sidewalks there. They were goofing around. One of them pushed the other girl kind of jokingly. She fell out into the road. The one car almost hit her, swerved around, and 2 more cars almost rear ended each other. Again, I'm gonna go to my grave and say that these sidewalks should never be built, but that's here in Oregon. They're here, so we have to live with it. But going back to like the standard, if I can show you like this picture. This is the sidewalk. The sidewalk that was built. Right. This curb, see how close it is to the road? See how our curb is further back? And from my understanding, each sidewalk needs to have this much space from the sidewalk to the road, correct?
It'd be this is a county road, so they might have different requirements.
So it does, we've looked it up. And we don't have that space. So is it falling on us now to get that space to move that out to the road so we can get that little grass patch? Because someone's got to come and move our curb, or else technically we're not falling under what's supposed to happen because we don't have that grass patch. Because somebody screwed up and put our curb too far close to our house.
Make a shoulder, so you got a wider shoulder here. I don't know the details again, but it's certainly something to talk with Reach about in terms of how this is going to work. And is this the one side of your governor's driveway and the other you're standing in the other?
Yeah, so this right here is like our neighbor sidewalk where it ends and that it's our governor driveway and then down here is the other side, yeah.
I don't know the details of the strip as we call it, in between the sidewalk and.
Yeah, I guess there has to be a certain amount of grass in between the sidewalk and that curb. But like how our curb is built, it's impossible to get that grass strip.
Well, luckily, that looks like an asphalt curb and not concrete.
Right,
So
it
it
is.
can come up pretty easily, ground down.
Yeah.
Other than that, but I don't know the specifications. Yeah, in terms of, if we have an HOP permit from the county to do this work and install it, another thing that Ed is supposed to get. They have the requirement for, is the borough requirement. If the work will be done per those regulations, so that it is uniform.
Right. So like, what should I tell the contractor that's gonna do the concrete? Because there might not be enough room to put our sidewalk in because of that curb.
The contractor's gonna have to come back to us and ask us how to do that, because we have the standard. And, our engineer may have to get involved with that. You know, we can't tell you what's, no, the contractor, you shouldn't be doing that, we should be.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's our HOP. Yeah, for all these.
Yeah, so there's definitely engineering on that. I don't have that engineering.
And I guess the last thing with the standard is the neighbor that has just put in their driveway, they put in a cement driveway. Just like there has to be a sidewalk cutout. It's different than even the cement driveway, correct?
I know.
Like whether it's a asphalt driveway or a concrete driveway, there still has to be a sidewalk cutout that says that it's like a specific.
There's typically an apron for
An
that.
apron, okay,
Yeah,
there has to
so-
be an apron, got it. I didn't know the word, so there has to be an apron.
Yeah, I don't know what, I don't know what the builder's doing up there, and I'm sure the builder's contracted his concrete guy to do the sidewalk.
Yes, he has, and I just wanna make sure because there's no apron. And they already put their driveway in without an apron.
I don't know how.
I just wanna make sure that they're not gonna get screwed. And somebody's gonna come back and tell them that they need to tear their whole driveway out again because there's not an apron.
Well, and I mean, Tim, in terms of, sidewalk repairs and, we went through all that for. There's damage to a sidewalk and we're coming in and here are the standards and Andy's using that. Is there a sidewalk permit that somebody needs to get to say they're gonna
Not
build it?
for this, because this is.
It's
this is
brand
land
new.
development. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there wouldn't be any, if there was, repairs by somebody in the road right away, that would be a different story, but since this is part of an infrastructure.
Right.
Deal that's bonded, there wouldn't be any permits for that.
But it does seem like it, because the developer was supposed to have done this work per the Saldo specs and construction, and he went away, the borough was going to do it per the standards, but if the property owner says, I'm gonna save, people money, I'm gonna do it myself, how are they?
Well, if it's
Do we
like-
appoint
we're
them? They
gonna
don't have
inspect
permit.
it, so we are gonna inspect that.
Well, I know, but how do we get ahead of it so they're not pouring concrete inappropriately? If they didn't apply for the land development approval, they haven't applied for some other, sidewalk permit right here and now, and maybe that is something, a conversation Reach has had with them already, but
Yeah.
we should be able
I
to
mean,
pull.
that's something that we would be inspecting and fully be accepting of the whole thing before we send the full final bill.
But I think we do need to get,
Right.
make sure that property owner, before they're doing something and after the fact, because it's different when it's a developer and they've had the plans, they know what it is, they've been approved, they go and do it the wrong way, and then again, if it's somebody else standing in their shoes.
Yeah, well, I haven't been involved with this, so we'll have to.
We'll get them in.
Take a look at the design before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your contractor, it's on to you.
Well, this is the neighbor contractor.
Oh,
right now.
okay.
Yeah, so
Sounds like
ours is, or I just don't want them to get it.
Yeah.
Because like,
Yeah.
I just watched them pour their concrete driveway and realized that there's not an apron where the sidewalk should be.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you guys right now, if you go there and tell them that they have to rip out their apron, whenever they just poured concrete, you might be getting more crap from me in the coming months, because that's a whole concrete driveway, not asphalt.
Well, they wouldn't have to rip out the whole concrete.
Well, no, no, just where
Yeah,
the,
just
where the
smoothen
apron,
it out.
just where the apron should. Yeah, I'm not sure what they would do with that, but I'm not a concrete guy, but
And neither am I, so.
yeah.
Yeah, I have a concrete apron that's sidewalk. It's,
Yeah, I guess I'm like I said, we built the house in 2020.
Does it make it walk over?
yeah, you can walk over.
Yeah, like we built the house in 2020. We've been dealing with these sidewalks for 4 years now. And I just we lost the battle for having the sidewalks, and that's completely fine. But I just want to understand the standard, because it seems like the standard is different.
Now, no, in terms of at least the construction standards for, a sidewalk. We've had to deal with the differences between developers supposed to put it in, property owners says they want to. And then the zoning on the issue of the house being closer because of the mistake, process that we have in place, to have a public hearing over it. It's another body, it's the zoning hearing board, their appeal processes, rights, and responsibilities, so it's not the same thing to say, well, because they had a change on a variance request, due to this mistake, that should carry over to other types of issues. It's properties are looked at one by one, except when we're dealing with a development and the infrastructure, that it's all coordinated.
Yeah, I get that, I understand that, it's just
Yeah,
the house is supposed to be set up in a certain way. And we were, again, told that the houses were gonna be
uniform.
5 feet in front of each
Yeah.
other, going back to almost like a V.
Right.
And now we have one sitting 20 feet out in front of ours.
Right.
25, 23 in Branch.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
for,
yeah. Thank you, I guess, well, I appreciate you guys talking to me, you didn't have to talk to me tonight about it. I'm sure my wife is gonna want to come back in 2 weeks.
See you then. You know where
Thank
we
you,
are.
guys. Thank you very much.
um. We still need Tim?
So it doesn't have springs.
He wants to stay. He wants to stay.
Yeah, you're welcome, you're welcome.
I mean, any other detail? No, I talked to Tim beforehand. So.
Okay. Tim, see you.
Senior program.
Senior program.
Hey, about senior program.
Okay, so this was brought up in the past, that we resurrect the senior programming. I know in the past, like lunches,
Yeah,
programs, what
it
are
was a
your,
very successful program, went back a few years, my wife and I participated in it, and of course, Zach knows all about it as well as I do. But, it got priced out, basically, and, if you go back to the beginning, we had little teams, and we took turns, every month, and, each team brought the food in, brought it from home. That kind of arrangement it was, and we used to get, I don't know, 50, I don't know, 50, or something like that.
The original program was honestly trying closer to 60.
Yeah, right. And also, we were able to, bring some entertainment in, at Christmas time, we had a great, lot of, we go out and solicit gifts, and we had, no one went home without something, like Christmas time, and we had special programs, Thanksgiving. Anyway, it was a really good program. And then, yes, what happened was the little teams fell apart, and we started catering it. So the price went, it used to be $2, okay, a person. And then the catering took it up to, I think it was 10, and 10. And that took the numbers away, not all the numbers away, but it probably took, 50% of it away, would be my guess. And then COVID came and it's been gone since COVID and now of course to try to bring anything in there as far as the catering would be. So, but I still think that there's interest within the seniors. I get it when I'm out, and when I see people that would be there that know me, and they always ask if when we're gonna get it started again, but I explain. It's a difficult situation because of the cost factor. So the only way I could see that program continuing, if we decide we want to try to do something with that, then it would require some subsidy from the borough.
I'm just curious, where were these held? in the past? The Blueberry Film.
So what was that question?
Oh, where were these held? Like,
Oh, I think we're at the activity center.
Is
Yeah.
there any reason we couldn't find some private partnerships to help, sponsorships to help defray the costs? I have a feeling several local restaurants will be willing to help out with that.
So what was happening was the caterer, we had a standard caterer every month, same caterer, because they were the cheapest we could find per plate, and delivery too, because it cannot, I am the only person who works the program. So I'm the only one that sets up, cleans up, all that stuff. I cannot also go out and retrieve food and bring it back. So it has to be a company that will deliver the food. Running base numbers, you're looking at a break even. If we ran the program how it was before, even at $10 a plate, which there was grumblings about that price, which is why the numbers went from probably 60 in the early days to we averaged between 30, 35, in early 2000, late, or in early 2020, early 29, or late 2019. You're probably looking at about 90,000 a year deficit. Run for. How often was it once a month? Once a month. Yeah, and that's factoring in, obviously, meal, we won't get a $12 meal. Not what we were getting, they were getting essentially dish, side dish, they were getting a bread, a salad, and then drinks. So you're getting full blown catered meals.
Yeah.
And it's just not attainable for what it was attainable before. Entertainment was a separate charge. They paid a membership fee per month or per year. 15, I believe it was at the time we canceled it. So even at numbers of 40 members, you're looking at a $600 membership fee. Your entertainment is going to be around $225 a month. So your $600 membership fee is towards essentially a $2,700 entertainment fee. So obviously there's a large part of that deficit there. And then most of the other deficit comes out of the difference in money in towards the food versus actual cost of food. There's minor miscellaneous charges, plates, cups, the soft goods, essentially running the program. It's a good program, but it's a very costly program. If you want to run it, we can run it, but there's a lot of things that need attention within recreation within the borough. We have a lot of things that are behind in maintenance, and it's a large cost. Like I said, my figures figure out to be 89, 88 as a deficit cost. If you get more people, the cost will actually go up because of the price difference paid in versus food cost. That's on based on like 40, you said? This is based off of essentially 35 attending 40 members, but 35 attending every month. Which
That-
is
What
what
if
we
you-
work.
That's monthly, right? What if you did a quarterly? Is that,
I mean, cut your costs in quarter, so
okay.
9, 45, 22, 50.
Does it need to involve food? Can it just be like a get together and not a meal,
It
like,
can be a bring your own food.
or just?
You're still gonna probably run about half cost due to entertainment versus membership buy-in. I did run that number, comes in about 4,500. If you're providing, entertainment and drinks, coffee, however you wanna call that. Just because the membership dues are nowhere near covering what the bringing in the entertainment for an hour was at that point in time. Yeah, when you had 70 members, the number was a lot closer. But with the membership and half of what it was, we're pretty far off.
What's your thought, Laura? Again? Your thought?
But I was about to say it, but I already said.
Yeah, but that's already said.
I don't remember.
But then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably so.
Too long ago, I can't remember. Yeah, that's something we could do. I mean, if this is something we want to explore, which I love a community program. I think we should. I think it doesn't have to look like what it did before necessarily. As long as we're providing something that's of value that people are interested in. I know there's a million clubs at Nash that there's the Strolling Strings, there's all sorts of choirs that could come and do some sort of entertainment. I mean, there's student clubs for everything. And they are often willing to do stuff like that. That's not gonna fill you all the time, but.
Oh, actually, it could.
Especially,
Yeah.
especially if we shift it to quarterly.
Yeah,
Quarterly, that's, and also.
Their choirs should show up once a month if that's what you want. I mean,
Yeah.
They just want to perform. That's all I'm
there's,
saying,
We
yeah.
had like the middle school choir.
We had the choir.
Oh, yeah.
For Christmas, we used to try to get the middle school choir. Anybody from Nash, the problem is transportation.
Oh, you gotta get them or something.
Yeah, and
That's
that's,
true.
I ain't
and
thought
it's
of that.
midday, midweek, for the program. So you gotta bus them essentially. And
Move it
that's,
to an evening program.
like go to lunch.
Then they'd be volunteering, then you'd be volunteering after school hours, getting there that way, but choirs, I know my daughter was in all the choirs, and at a drop of a hat, parents would drive them to the senior home or wherever it was that they would just go. And the same with the other musicians, they love to perform, they just need a reason to go.
yeah. And there's not just musicians. I mean,
Yeah.
there's anything you can imagine.
Oh,
of
absolutely,
interest.
yeah.
Not necessarily performative, but there could be engagement that way. So I think maybe we can just brainstorm a little bit. I think this is definitely something we can get back to. I would like to see it happen. We don't have to do, like I said, it doesn't have to look exactly like what it did before, but I think we can get creative with costs and programming if that's something you think would be useful and people would be interested in.
Well, I think, from what I can, feedback I get, the teams will still be interested. Of course, now time has gone by and a lot of the people that was used to attend are no longer with us, so we almost have to develop a new.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think that we can start like probably coordinate like and start like slowly and then get the probably and the school and the Nash and like club involved and let's see and what will happen, and we can also look at the sponsorship and if some company or
So also
can
you can
give support that
if you were to start it, downtrending it like that, you could determine whether there's actually an interest.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
move more forward with it. But, yes, maybe we should look at, maybe take it quarterly and see. I don't know.
You said they were paying subscription at one point, is that right?
Yeah, they pay like
So
another
so
yearly
the first
membership.
quarterly event, you can lay out the subscription table and you can see how many people are really interested in doing this, right? How many subscriptions do you get at the first event? to kind of gauge interest. They liked it so well, they subscribed.
Everybody who basically everybody who did lunch
Yeah.
paid into
Yeah.
the membership, because we had to know the numbers before we ever brought anybody in.
Right.
And going back to your point on sponsorship, you're looking about $750 in that would,
Just for food.
would cover costs, essentially.
Okay.
But
Would
if the
cover the
entertainment-
deficit.
But if the entertainment was free, it would be less? Like
Yeah.
if you went to the school kids
Entertainment's
and
about
tried to get them?
225
Mhm.
a month.
Can you look into that, see what all sorts of student clubs there are that might be able to come and?
I definitely think the choir, like the, it was the chamber choir.
The chamber choir, the honors
They just
choir.
like, because I have so many friends in that group and they just like always like wanna be like getting involved with things with the community, so. I definitely think if I like talk to any of my friends, they'll like come to the director and stuff.
My daughter was in the chamber choir, the honors choir, there's a treble choir, I think, that they all love to perform, they love it. So and I'm thinking maybe some of the musical folks too, like the Nash Musical, they'd probably show up and do like some stuff, some
All of
performances.
the
Yeah.
musical groups.
If
we
you
all
need,
love
I
doing
mean, if you
stuff.
need volunteer help with food or whatever, you can ask the key clubs.
Oh, the key clubs will definitely show up
Tripping over
too.
each other to volunteer.
There's all this requirements of volunteer hours
Yeah.
and service hours for these clubs, and they can't get enough of them.
Right.
So the slots get filled so quick, so if all of a sudden it opens up more volunteer hours, there'll be more volunteers pouring into fill them.
I think we've got the start of something good here.
Somebody told the surrounding communities, like Ohio Township have a program. Combined, canvas.
Well, we are not
Not with
exclusive to Franklin Park.
Okay.
These are
Oh,
not,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is not just our residents in the program.
But that's right, that's exactly right, but people, it's not just Franklin Park that come to these.
Yeah, we can just get it started and then, if we need to do more and probably, we can do more later. But at least, we can look into the situation and see what we can do with this.
I think it's, good to test the water,
Exactly.
maybe, it's like, so I'm good with working with you.
Great.
I think the first thing we need to do is judge numbers of people willing to participate.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to have some kind of.
We still have I'd say, I don't know who would be even left, but we still have a good database as far as
We have nothing.
nothing.
Could you reach out to the different churches and all those
That was
types of
part of
places?
the computer crash. that Never got recovered.
Oh, no.
So forget about that. Can you reach out to the different churches and things like that? That's probably a really good
YMCA might have,
resource.
Oh, yeah.
they have like a silver.
Yeah, and the library.
I don't know if
we
Carol
put
has
some
silver
information on
speakers. They
the
do have
post
bridge
and the
club
website.
that meets
Just,
Yep.
and we have this program.
Potential.
And
The flyer at Kim's.
yeah,
They want us to
ABC
take
now,
it over.
So yeah, we could put a little flyer together.
Take
that's something.
to make up that $1 a year.
Because it doesn't have to be just Franklin Park.
Right.
It can be.
All right, I think we have this jumping off point.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good. This is a good thing. It's positive for the community and
Yeah, it is a good positive thing. But there isn't much, there isn't that much we do for the seniors.
cool.
I'm not there yet, but.
Let us know when you are.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Next time's already knocked out, the MMOs, so we get there. Person, council mayor. Going over.
I'm good.
Tom?
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of quick things.
Oh, thanks, Zach.
See you
I know the chief's not here tonight, but I saw the traffic study for Wexford Run, Sam. I don't know if you saw that. It was good. It was hardly any speeding down.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe.
Well, I don't know if anybody paid attention to it, but it was Wexford Run is below cold. It's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. And the enforcement was, there were so few cars that exceeded the speed limit. It was really impressive. Like the 99th percentile was only 40 miles an hour. It seems really hard to believe, but
The one thing from years of sitting down there, there's a perspective. You get an impression that a car is really like, oh, here they come. And I'm like, it's like, I double check, it's like 40, it seemed faster, so for some reason down there, whether it's the valley or whatever, cars appear to be going faster than they really are. So it's, yeah.
well, the only reason I bring it up is, I mean, Cole was the worst, I think Chief said he ever saw, 62% livable.
We did McGee Road extension, and I'll be in the next report, and that is pretty high.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we knew that, but the problem with enforcement on McGee Road extension is there's no place to do it. You know, it's the archaic fast car and track. You know, the same thing we've been talking about, but radar would be much more effective. But,
You get chalk lines with the stopwatch.
exactly, we're using 1940s technology. And Pennsylvania's the only state, but I've preached that. But,
We're the only state in the nation.
Yeah.
The only state in the nation that doesn't allow local police to
Yeah,
use
but-
radar.
And the policy behind that is, do we, I mean,
Philadelphia,
I've been with Pennsylvania State Mayor
That's not
for,
the state
since I
says
became
we're-
mayor
we're
almost.
gonna use it as a cash grab. That's what they say.
okay, so don't do it.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to do it, okay. Yeah.
What's that, Luke?
It's a
Eastern
cash
side of the
grab.
state says we're gonna use it as a cash grab, so they shoot.
Well, yeah, they.
That's a pretty paternalistic view of government. isn't it?
Here's the thing about a radar gun. There's no big giant magnet in it that's gonna pull a car down the road any faster than the speed limits, and if speed limits are legally posted, which they all should be done with speed studies and all this other stuff to establish speed limit, then the standards that are set in the vehicle code for where you can take enforcement action when it's 11 over, 10 over, whatever, it doesn't matter if it's a cash grab or not, because there's no magnet in that thing that's pulling cars down the road any faster. But anyhow, I'll get off my soapboxes, that's.
Oh,
all
plus
we're
we only
talking
get a small
about.
portion
Well,
of the
listen,
ticket anyway.
they're presuming
Yes,
that,
exactly.
they're presuming that your stopwatch action is gonna be inaccurate, you're gonna throw that ticket, you're not gonna do that ticket, so that your accuracy will go up with the radar.
Well, exactly, because if you, and the older people here probably remember,
Yeah.
when you entered Pennsylvania, the big billboards that said radar for your protection and it listed all the fines. But what it was, well, the radar for your protection was because it was an accurate measure of your speed. So that's kind of like that, but that's diverted from what, short.
Pennsylvania State Mayor that I've been part of now for, 10 years, I guess, I don't know. But every year we do a big push on radar, and, we can't get it through the legislature.
We got 3 radar guns when it looked like.
Yeah, it's close. It came
Yeah,
out
right.
one year.
There was a year we thought we were really gonna do it, we got all the stuff.
So if it ever happens, I'm all in my breath.
I don't want to beat on it, but if there's ever a few dollars that we could do one of the signs, there's gotta be some way to slow them down, because the officer was there today doing patrol at 4 o'clock this afternoon, between 3 and 4. He wasn't in the driveway. I didn't see who it was, he or she. In the driveway, wasn't even in there 1 minute.
No,
Pull back 1 minute. I mean, it doesn't take, and remember, there gotta be 11 miles an hour over before you even pulled out of.
That's right. Well,
Yes,
just looking
right.
at the, yeah.
So anyway, it's seems like it's worse right now than it's ever been. I've lived there 45 years. So it's a long time. And it's just like,
yeah, on the first day of school, we had, Jake out to do, traffic enforcement. He made 30 stops
Wow.
in his 12-hour shift. So.
yeah, I mean, I don't really want anything special, but it's really a bad.
I would agree, you know, for being here for 31 years and doing speed down there, all those years, it's always been, you know, old Sarge Preach told the story that it was so easy down there that he forgot to turn off his overhead lights and back into a driveway. Still had his red and blues flashing, it still got cars speeding down, so it is a big problem road, probably one of the highest in the borough that has a significant population of it.
So 2 other quick things, Uday. Just yesterday I was going up Cole Road and I passed Howard Pfeiffer's house. Howard's our 100-year-old veteran.
I mean, 101 very soon here now.
Yeah, so I texted Nancy, his wife, and I said, hey, Nancy, every time I go by, I wonder how you and Howard are doing. I need to pull over, and this was on Labor Day, actually. And she texted me back that evening, and she said, oh, he's doing really good, he's getting out and about. I just wanted to share this, he was in the Labor Day parade for the Carpenters Union. So he was downtown in the parade, so she said he's doing well, he's gonna be 101 in 3 weeks or something, she wrote that. So anyway, I just wanted to let everyone know that he's.
Thank you. I'm going to, I know his birthday's coming up soon, so I was thinking about him, so thanks for that.
Yeah, so Howard's good and well, and I try to keep in touch with him. His wife's wonderful too. She's, you know, he missed voting in the spring because he was in the hospital with a septic infection.
Whoa.
He was in intensive care, and she didn't think he was going to make it.
Oh,
Of course, a week later, he's out. So he's really, really resilient. And last thing I wanted to share is after the last work session was the public meeting. Anyway, when we had the two gentlemen speak to us at the last work session, I spoke to one of them afterwards, Chuck. I don't know.
Chuck Golding.
Yeah, and he sent me an email, so we've been communicating a little bit. He seems really well, we know from his discussion he was pretty much opposed to the ordinance, but on the flip side, he's very willing to get involved with some suggestions on things that could really benefit the trees in the borough. And I think the other fellow that spoke, the forester, has shared the same thing. Hey, you know, we need to assess what we've got here, what we can do, something that would benefit all the residents, not just the ones that might be developed, but look at the general health of the trees and stuff overall. So Chuck and I exchanged a couple of quick emails, and he says, well, if you want to sit down and get together, but I thought it would be within the land use, it might be something to get a little more information or suggestions from them, since they're both professionals in the tree, arborist, forestry type business, where I'm not. I just throw it out there, Brian, for the committee to consider. We know both of them don't agree with the ordinance, but both of them feel that there's work that can and should be done that would really truly benefit the tree health. So anyway, if we're interested, I think I can entice both of them to come to one of the meetings and more of a roll up your sleeve and, hey, what do you think we can do to fix this, and this, and the oak wilt problems and the other distressed trees?
So Tom, would that be something that would be legislated, or is it just, these are like, I mean, if it's not being legislated, maybe EAC wants to talk with them.
Well, that could be too. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe it's something where they do a survey, like one of these things, it's an aerial thing that takes,
Right.
you know, a couple $100 or something to get a report on the tree health, or I don't really know where it might go.
Yeah.
But I think that if two citizens that have knowledge and are willing to offer suggestions on things they see that they can help make the borough better.
I mean, I think that's great. I just don't think land use, which is like creating regulations and so I don't think it fits there, but it definitely sounds like EAC would love to hear from them. Sure, absolutely. And then report back to council on recommendations. We could do it that way, but I don't, does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, okay.
It's always good to have experts.
Yeah,
Kind of
absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
you know, give their advice, feedback and whatnot. Could be something valuable there that we weren't thinking of. So that's
I
good.
think that's good. Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Tom, that's people that thing, sorry, Tom, yeah, I think I might have missed it, but like the speed, you're looking at the speed, the first thing you're talking about the speed.
Yeah.
You know, the surprise speed and not. There's a part of the borough that should really be regulated. I thought I was thinking or hearing that you were looking at one of those signs that flash.
Well, I know budget's tight, but I think at some point it might make some sense. I mean, my wife would love these speed bumps. I think you're not getting it. But she said, well, those blinking signs, they actually do make me slow down. You know, I get out Branch School, but you know, there's one at the top, a couple of both directions. And you know, and I
Yeah,
look down.
I like to see it flash, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and there are
Like you're
people
doing
wandering
something
around in this world that think that's gonna get them a ticket, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they
Always,
absolutely are convinced of it, and that works too.
Yeah, that's okay.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to ask that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there are grants.
Because of that.
So I know like the rep and the senator, the local offices, There are a lot of grants for public safety, this would probably qualify for public safety traffic grants. So I think we should pursue any of these. There's other candidates or suggestions, we should do it.
If we've got other neighborhoods where those are needed, we should get a
Yeah.
group grant together.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
We can say these are this is one example, here's another couple, you know,
You guys have the money, send it here, we need to get.
first five, six, color.
I live at the bottom of a hill, and so people speed coming both directions. Have a cheaper option. My husband always says, park his truck in the street.
Yeah.
And then when someone's speeding, shove her old stroller out in front of it.
Ah.
And then when they hit it, someone won't speed by there anymore. So we might think about that, if you have an old stroller.
Well, you have to see the street. You're not allowed to park in it, first of all.
Oh, I see.
I had a contractor working there and he put his pickup truck along the curb one. Means everybody had to go around it, no matter which way they were.
Draws a
coming.
complaint really.
It isn't quite wide enough and the traffic's so heavy that you really can't park on the street anymore.
Or shove anything in the street with oncoming cars, but yeah.
No, it's a good thought. I'm not looking for anything special, but I'm just thinking it really is a hazard. The one neighbor told me that she was hit by a car right up around the bend where we put the sewer pipe. She was struck by a vehicle and I said, I didn't hear about that. Do you ever remember here?
I don't know what, I mean, we've had accidents.
This would be like I don't think she was seriously hurt, but the car actually struck her walking along the road. And I'll tell you what, we have a neighbor with like 2 doors up we walk up to, and they will not slow down. If they're going 50 and you're walking right tight to the curb, there's no sidewalks. Then they will not slow down. They'll come within 6 inches of your arm at 50 miles an hour.
Just one thing on that topic, if the planning commission, when somebody submits a plan for a new housing plan, they could look at these roads, like, for example, when they built Settlers Walk, they put Pioneer in as one of the longest straightaways in the borough at 25 miles an hour. If you would have the developers institute traffic calming measures or refrain from building giant long straightaways, yeah, that would probably help preempt some of this down the road. So.
Rudy, one thing,
Yeah.
Luke reminded me, I missed it when we went over the agenda. There's one item on here, and I pulled it out of section 108 of the code. It's optional ordinance enhancement.
Number 5, you can say something about
Motion number 5. I read it from the the ordinance and stuff for
Well,
the
it's,
code. I mean,
yeah, it's a provision in the municipality planning code after some Supreme Court decisions that invalidated zoning ordinances and saldos because, years ago, because there was a misstep in that process that we always talk about. That it goes to the county for comments, that it goes to planning commission for comments, that you do the advertisement 2 weeks, have a public hearing, et cetera, et cetera. So the legislature, instead of changing the process, created section 108 of the MPC that says you can do an optional post enactment legal notice that says, we've passed a zoning ordinance amendment. You have 30 days from this date to file any procedural challenges that, we missed one of those steps or didn't get a timing right or something. And if it doesn't, it's somebody can't wait for 30 years from now and then come up and say, all right, I'm going to challenge this ordinance, show me the legal ads, show me, these other things, which has happened in, I think, Luke versus Cataldi case in the Supreme Court. It's just, we've done it when we've had more complex ones where it's bounced back and forth and there've been changes and things of that nature. Actually, when we were looking at the agenda, almost flagged as something we really need it for this one because we're, liberalizing those 2 provisions there. So,
procedurally,
somebody, well, no, I mean, and the procedure was a little bit, streamlined,
Yes.
but it's not a restriction on property like what you see usually challenged. People are usually challenging a zoning ordinance that says you've restricted my property more so. This one's saying you can have a taller townhome.
How about it?
Like that, yeah, and so we still have it on. It is optional. I mean, it costs of that. It's run in 2 successive weeks, $100 or something like that. It's a little paragraph that just says on this date, Borough Council, Borough Crampton Park enacted ordinance number, whatever it is. Copy can be found at the borough. Anybody who is standing can challenge this in 30 days with the second best.
So we would do this for every ordinance or just?
Only zoning and subdivision of land development.
I like
And
the-
it's optional. We haven't done it all the time. We've started to do it, more often just because they've been bouncing around. We had it on the agenda for the trees and wooded areas one. Other ones that have been pretty straightforward. We haven't done this one. It's optional.
I think it makes sense because what it does is it provides a final conclusion to the process. Like it basically sets the clock and says, hey, this clock is ticking, you got 30 days to do something. If you're not doing it, then. we're
Well,
gonna-
just on a procedural challenge.
Yeah, right.
There could still be a substantive challenge. Somebody can still take a variance from it and it'll still be in effect.
But the procedural
But
challenge.
it's procedural, which are a pain that,
Right, yeah, because it knocks it out, it's gone.
for that, and then you redo it, you go through the process again, not the end all be all, but. Yeah, that was the
So
issue.
if we pass this, then we could apply this to any applicable ordinance where it would, we can use it.
No, this is specific to just this
It's a-
ordinance amendment, because it's optional.
Doesn't say that on the agenda, I don't think.
Well, that's just the way it is. It's an optional
So it specifically applies to the one.
to the one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You
When
can't,
when I read it, I saw the public hearing and then I saw the motion and now I see this motion five below it and it doesn't seem like it was related to them.
yeah, my bad, I should have addressed it, that is all put in together, it is optional. Need to do it, strike it, but it's to guard against procedural validity challenges in the future if somebody.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know we were tied.
Yeah, it's only for that. That's.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't quite understand it. I was reading it here and I didn't see what it applied to. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's all. I'm sorry. I forgot that.
Is there?
good.
Just clarify things. Yeah, Lee.
I'm good.
Okay. You
Wait a minute.
You didn't prepare.
10 minutes at every meeting.
What?
What's the word? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have one item, and that, I attended the land use committee, 2 weeks ago, and looking through the minutes, why I wasn't there.
You weren't there.
Well, we usually list just.
You're not on the
members.
committee, huh? You're not on the committee.
Yeah,
So
I-
list
Are you?
is there.
No, I,
You sure you weren't there?
I remember I even told you we had a great meeting after it was over.
Yeah, you
It's a
did.
crowded room,
That's all right.
Absolutely.
so when you move to connect them.
So anyway, that's all I have. I was-
The minutes need to be
Little correction, to-
amended, that's
little
all.
correction to the minute.
That's all.
They're officially. Huh. You're doing them for
So that is because I spent not part of anything to set up. Oh, yeah. Check that out.
All right, I will add the mayor to the agenda.
Well, check the video to make sure.
I don't recall the signing attendees, I think I wrote them
You wrote
down
them
really
on
quick,
Post-it note,
yeah. I could give you a summary of
How did you
the
miss that?
testimony, but I couldn't put down who was there.
Okay. Anyone?
No, me.
The mayor and I and Reed met briefly last week with Jack Casey and Nick Giorgetti from McCandless to talk about trails. Nothing really groundbreaking. They want to go through, potentially through Wall Park, maybe back up through those woods and connect over to,
I'd like to connect all the work with
yeah,
somehow.
somehow to connect over to Old Orchard.
It's always a wonderful thought to be able to do those things, but putting trails through neighborhoods is difficult. So anyway, it was a good discussion. And I think it was good to get together and it opens up some options for us, but we forward to it.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't think there's anything immediate, but we have to do a lot of digging and consideration to do that. I'm open to it, but we have to look at a lot of potentials first.
What was the other name? Nick Casey and
Jack Casey.
I'm sorry, see, I'm getting confused.
That's because it's 11 o'clock at night.
Jack Casey and
Nick Giorgetti. I don't know.
GIOI.
Yeah, I think so.
is he
He's a member of council. We can ask, we check it out.
We kind of think of the other name.
Yeah, just the spelling.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find it.
that's okay. I'll look it up in the morning. Or after this. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anything else with our partners?
We did discuss,
Just
the
curious.
ambulance authority, but I think maybe we should talk about that.
Okay,
And I think that-
all right. Cool. Right?
Well, good time.
I'm done. All right. Okay, yes, shall we go into executive?
Yep, that means